"Get back here, you little slut." The voice cuts through the crisp autumn air, sharp and jagged like broken glass. It's followed by cruel, high-pitched laughter. My heart is a frantic drum against my ribs, each beat a prayer. Faster, Sarah, just run faster. But there's nowhere to go. They corner me on the old wooden bridge overlooking Miller's Creek, the same bridge where kids carve their initials into the railings, a testament to innocent summer loves I'll never know. For me, it's a cage. Jessica, with her perfectly straightened blonde hair and cheerleader's smile turned venomous, steps in front of me. Her two shadows, Amy and Nicole, flank her like wolves. "Look at her," Jessica sneers, her voice dripping with condescension, trying to pretend she's normal, trying to pretend she didn't ruin her life before it even started. I didn't do anything to you," I stammer, clutching the straps of my worn-out backpack. It feels like the only solid thing in a world that's tilting on its axis. "You exist," Amy spits, shoving my shoulder. "You walk the halls of our school, stinking it up with your charity case clothes and your mistake." The word hangs in the air, heavy and suffocating. Mistake. They mean my son, my everything. Leave me alone. "Please," Jessica lets out a theatrical sigh. "Oh, we'd love to, really, but you're an embarrassment." A walking PSA for what happens when trash gets ideas above its station. "So, we're going to teach you a lesson. A reminder of where you belong." Before I can react, she yanks my backpack off. Amy grabs my hair, pulling my head back with a sharp, brutal tug that makes tears spring to my eyes. Nicole wrenches my old, rusty bicycle from my grasp, the one my brother, Daniel, bought me with his first real paycheck, a relic of a better time. What are you doing?" I cry out, watching in horror as they lift it. "Giving it a bath," Jessica says with a chillingly sweet smile, and then they throw it. It hangs in the air for a second, a dark silhouette against the setting sun, before it hits the murky water of the creek with a sickening splash. The sound echoes the shattering of my heart. Everything I have, everything I am, feels like it's sinking into that cold, dark water. "There," Jessica says, dusting off her hands. "That's where trash belongs." They don't stop there. A shove from behind sends me sprawling onto the rough wooden planks of the bridge. A kick connects with my ribs. Pain explodes in my side, sharp and blinding. They stand over me, their faces twisted with a kind of righteous fury that only bored, privileged teenagers can muster. "You're pathetic, Sarah. Go home and cry to your bastard baby. Why don't you just disappear?" I curl into a ball, my arms wrapped around my head, the splinters from the wood digging into my palms. The world is a blur of pain and muffled insults. I don't fight back. I can't. What's the point? They've already taken everything. And then another voice, deeper, angrier. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" The kicking stops. The insults die in their throats. I risk a glance up. A figure stands at the end of the bridge, silhouetted against the dying light. Tall, broad-shouldered, with an aura of quiet danger that commands the air around him. Marcus Thorne, the guy everyone at Northwood High whispers about. The bad boy from the wrong side of the tracks, the one who broke a senior's nose last year for looking at him wrong. The one I accidentally crashed into in the school parking lot just a few weeks ago, running away from a memory, just like I'm running now. Jessica's confidence wavers, just a little. "We were just talking, Marcus." He takes a slow, deliberate step forward. Looked like more than talking to me. Looked like 3 hyenas kicking a puppy. His gaze is cold, and it sweeps over them with utter contempt. "Now, get the hell out of here before I get angry. It's not a request. It's a command backed by a promise of violence they all understand. They scatter, whispering and casting nervous glances back, their bravado evaporating into the evening mist. Silence descends on the bridge, broken only by my ragged breathing and the gentle gurgle of the creek below. Marcus walks over and crouches down beside me. His face, which usually holds a permanent scowl, is surprisingly gentle. "Hey, you okay?" I can't speak. I just shake my head, a sob finally escaping my chest. He follows my gaze to the water where my bike disappeared. "They threw your bike in?" I nod, tears now streaming freely down my face. He sighs, a sound full of a weariness that seems too old for his 18 years. "Right. Stay here." He doesn't offer a hand. He doesn't say it'll be okay. He just walks to the edge of the bridge, kicks off his worn-out boots, and without a second of hesitation, climbs over the railing and drops into the cold, murky water below. I watch, stunned into silence, as the notorious Marcus Thorne, the ghost of Northwood High, wades through the creek, searching in the fading light for my stupid, rusty, old bike. Why? Why would he do that for me? Maybe you're asking the same question. To understand why a moment of kindness from a boy like him felt like a lifeline in an ocean of cruelty, you have to understand my world. You have to understand how I ended up here, on this bridge, as the school's pariah. The girl with a secret too big to hide. You have to go back to the day my world first began to fracture. It all started with a phone call and the promise of meeting a woman I'd never seen. A woman who was about to become my sister-in-law. A woman named Chloe. 6 months earlier, the final bell screamed, and I was out of my seat like a sprinter off the blocks. My best friend, Emily, scrambled to catch up, her laughter trailing behind me. "Sarah, wait up. What's the rush? You'd think the school was on fire." "It might as well be," I yelled back over my shoulder, weaving through the crowded hallway. "Move it, Em, or I'm leaving you behind." I burst through the main doors and into the chaotic symphony of the student parking lot. I didn't have a car. I had my bike, the one that now rests at the bottom of Miller's Creek. But back then, it was my chariot, my escape vehicle. I was in such a hurry that I didn't see him. I turned a corner too fast and slammed right into a solid wall of denim and leather. Marcus Thorne. We both went down in a tangle of limbs and textbooks. "I'm so sorry. So sorry. I'm in a rush," I blurted out, scrambling to my feet without even looking at him properly. I didn't wait for an answer. I just grabbed my bike and pedaled away as fast as my legs could carry me. Behind me, I was oblivious to the scowl on his face, the muttered curse under his breath. I had no idea that our lives had just collided, or how many more times they would. All I could think about was getting home. Emily, breathless, finally caught up as I waited by the school gates. She hopped onto the pegs on my back wheel. "Seriously, what is going on with you today?" she panted as I started to pedal furiously. "Slow down before you get us both killed." "I can't," I said, my voice giddy with excitement. "I have to get home. I'm finally going to meet her. My future sister-in-law." "Oh, right. Today's the day Daniel's bringing his girlfriend home?" "Yes. If I didn't have that damn calculus test, I would have skipped school entirely. My brain has been at home all day. My older brother, Daniel, was my hero. At 26, he was working a decent job in the city, trying to build a life for himself, for us. After our parents died in a car crash when I was just a kid, it was just him, me, and our Aunt Clara, who took us in without a second thought. Daniel was the one who promised me that one day we'd all have a better life. And this woman, Chloe, was supposed to be a part of that promise. "So, when's the wedding?" Emily asked. "I don't know, but it has to be soon. You better get your dress ready for the party." "Done." "So, is she from the city? Is she fancy?" "Totally from the city," I bragged, feeling a swell of pride. "Daniel said she's super smart, went to college, and works at some big company. He told me I have to study hard so I can go to college in the city, live with them." "You're really going to do it? Move to the city?" "I'm going to try my hardest," I said, my voice full of the unshakable certainty of a 17-year-old. "I'll get a scholarship, live with my brother and my new sister, and, I don't know, just be happy." I pedaled faster, the wind whipping through my hair, my heart soaring with a hope so pure and bright it felt like it could light up the whole world. But when I skidded to a stop in our gravel driveway, the house was quiet, too quiet. Aunt Clara was in the kitchen, washing dishes, her back to me. Her shoulders were slumped in a way that immediately set my nerves on edge. "Aunt Clara? Where are they? Where's Daniel and Chloe?" She turned, wiping her hands on her apron. Her face was etched with a familiar weariness, a quiet sorrow I knew all too well. "They're gone, honey. You just missed them." "Gone? But why?" I rushed home. She had some urgent work thing come up, apparently. They had to head back to the city. The bright balloon of my excitement popped, leaving a hollow ache in my chest. "Oh, I can't believe I missed her." "Don't you worry," Aunt Clara said, trying to force a smile. "There'll be plenty of time to meet her later." She paused, her gaze drifting towards the window, a frown line appearing between her brows. "But Sarah, I don't know about that one." "What do you mean?" She didn't seem happy here," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "She looked at this house, at us, like we were something she'd scraped off the bottom of her shoe. I know we're not rich, honey, but this is a good home." It felt like she was ashamed. "No, you must have misunderstood," I said quickly, defending a woman I'd never met. "She's a city girl, Aunt Clara. She's probably just not used to the country. It's different, that's all." Aunt Clara sighed, a deep, troubled sound. "I just worry about your brother. I don't want to see him get hurt." "Don't worry so much," I said, wrapping my arms around her. She felt so small, so fragile. "Daniel's going to be fine. He's going to be happy. I know it." I wanted to believe it. I needed to believe it. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about this invisible woman, Chloe. I imagined her, sophisticated and beautiful, making my brother happy. I didn't know then that the cracks in our foundation had already formed. I didn't know that my brother wasn't living a dream. He was living in a nightmare of his own making. That evening, I called him. The phone rang 3 times before he picked up, his voice a little breathless, a little distant. "Hey, Sarah." "Daniel." "So? I missed her. Why'd you guys leave so early?" I practically broke the sound barrier biking home. I could hear the forced smile in his voice. Sorry, kiddo. Chloe had an emergency at work. Something came up, and she had to get back to the city right away." Oh, the single word was heavy with my disappointment. "Well, will she come back soon? I really want to meet her." "Of course," he said, a little too quickly. "Next month. I'll bring her back next month, and you two can finally meet. Promise." "Okay, next month, then. Don't forget, I won't. Now, you should be studying, not worrying about me. How are your grades?" "Annoyingly good," I sighed dramatically. "Don't worry, I'll get that scholarship. That's my girl. Listen, I've gotta go. I'll call you later. Okay. Love you, Daniel. Love you too, Sarah. The line went dead. I sat there, in the quiet of my room, staring at my phone, a small, hopeful smile playing on my lips. A sister. I was finally going to have a sister. I had no idea that on the other end of that line, my brother wasn't in some chic city apartment. I didn't know that the moment he hung up, he was turning back to a life that was slowly, methodically grinding him into dust. In a small, cramped apartment that always smelled faintly of stale takeout and her mother's cigarette smoke, Daniel was on his hands and knees, wiping the floor. Just as he finished, Chloe emerged from the bedroom, a silk robe draped over her swelling belly. Her face was a mask of disgust. "What is that smell?" she demanded, her voice sharp. Daniel looked up from the floor, confused. "What smell? It's just lemon-scented cleaner." "Exactly. Chemicals. Fumes. Are you trying to suffocate me? Are you trying to poison your own child before it's even born?" "No, of course not. I'm sorry," he said, scrambling to his feet. I thought you liked lemon. I'll put it away." He scurried into the kitchen like a chastised dog and hid the bottle of cleaner under the sink. He forgot that since becoming pregnant, Chloe's moods were a minefield, and every scent, every sound, every word could be a trigger. He washed his hands thoroughly and came back into the living room, where she had settled onto the lumpy sofa, scrolling through her phone. "Peel me an apple," she commanded without looking up. "I want an apple, and don't leave any of the skin on. I hate the skin." Without a word, Daniel went back to the kitchen, took an apple from the fruit bowl, and began to peel it with meticulous care. He moved with the quiet efficiency of a butler, a role he had unknowingly auditioned for and won. This was his life now, and while Chloe was beautiful and she was carrying his child, she didn't love him. He knew she didn't. She was with him out of obligation, a consequence of one reckless, drunken night. And why was she pregnant in the first place? For that, you have to rewind. Just 2 short months. They worked at the same mid-level marketing firm. Daniel was quiet, a diligent worker who kept his head down. He'd been infatuated with Chloe from the day she started. She was everything he wasn't: confident, vibrant, and unapologetically ambitious. He, on the other hand, was an orphan from a small town, living in a shoebox apartment, constantly aware of the gaping chasm between his life and the one he wanted. He knew a girl like Chloe, a girl who dreamed of corner offices and European vacations, would never look twice at a guy like him. So he kept his feelings locked away, a secret treasure he'd look at in the quiet of the night. But fate, or maybe just cheap tequila, had other plans. It was the annual company holiday party. Chloe had been drinking steadily all night, her laughter a little too loud, her eyes a little too bright. Daniel watched from a distance as she cornered their department head, a slick, handsome man with a wife and 2 kids in the suburbs. He saw her lean in, whisper something, and then he saw the man laugh, pat her condescendingly on the shoulder, and walk away. Chloe's face crumpled. The vibrant confidence vanished, replaced by a raw, stinging humiliation. She turned and went straight back to the bar. Later that night, it was Daniel who found her, slumped in a chair, too drunk to drive. It was Daniel who gently helped her up, paid for her taxi, and made sure she got to her apartment door safely. He was about to leave when she grabbed his arm, her eyes unfocused but searching. "You like me, don't you, Daniel?" she slurred. He froze, his heart hammering in his chest. The quiet one, The good one. Everyone else here is just playing a game. She swayed slightly, her hand still tight on his arm. Do you like me? Yes, he whispered, the confession escaping before he could stop it. She looked at him for a long, silent moment. Then, a strange, sad smile touched her lips. Then, stay, she said. If you like me, stay with me tonight. And he did. That one night was the reason for the baby. When she found out, her first instinct was panic. Her immediate decision was abortion. She made the appointment, but the doctor at the clinic was stark, clinical. He looked at her chart, then at her, and advised against it. There were potential complications, he said. A thinning of the uterine wall that could make it difficult, if not impossible, for her to carry a child to term later in life. She stumbled out of the clinic in a daze and went to her mother's. Her mother, a pragmatic woman who had seen her share of hardship, running a small food cart on a street corner, listened patiently. Then, she gave her verdict. Marry him, she said. Marry the boy, Daniel. He's a good man. He's sincere. He loves you. He'll take responsibility. So, when Daniel, terrified but determined, came to her and begged to do the right thing, to marry her and raise their child together, Chloe, cornered by biology and her mother's relentless logic, finally agreed. But there were conditions. Her father had passed away less than a year ago. Out of respect, they had to wait another year to get married. By then, the baby would be born, and things would be settled. Daniel, overjoyed and blinded by a love he thought was finally being returned, agreed to everything. He moved out of his tiny room and into the small apartment Chloe shared with her mother. He thought he was starting a family. He didn't realize he was just signing up for a new job, servant. Despite her high and mighty attitude, Chloe's family was barely scraping by. But she held their modest city life over Daniel's rural poverty like a queen bestowing a great favor. If it weren't for this accidental pregnancy, she would never, ever have accepted a man so poor, a man with no family, no connections, no future. From the day he moved in, Daniel did everything. He did the grocery shopping, the cooking, the cleaning. He became the unpaid help for two women who treated him with a thinly veiled contempt. Chloe, especially, never let him forget his place. She constantly berated him for his lack of ambition, for not having a car, for not owning a house, for being a guest in her home. And Daniel endured it all. He absorbed the insults, swallowed his pride, and worked himself to the bone. All for the love of a woman who didn't love him back, and for the child growing inside her. Back in our little house in the countryside, I knew nothing of this. I imagined my brother living a life of urban excitement, cared for by a smart, beautiful woman who adored him. I saw their future as a bright, shining path leading straight to happiness. I had no idea that my hero, my strong older brother, was trapped. I had no idea that every single day, the woman I dreamed of as a sister was slowly breaking his heart. The weeks bled into months. Daniel, swallowed by his new life, barely had time to breathe, let alone visit. Every cent he earned went to Chloe. He used to come home once a month, a small bag of groceries for Aunt Clara in one hand, and a new book for me in the other. But now, 2 months had passed without a word, without a visit. The silence was heavy, unfamiliar. I finally broke and called him. Daniel? It's me, Sarah. Hey, how are you? He sounded tired, his voice thin over the line. I'm fine. But, are you busy? It's been a while. You haven't come home. A pause. I could hear the faint sound of a television in the background. Yeah, I I've been really busy, kiddo. And Chloe, she's pregnant, so, she's not really up for traveling. The world stopped for a second. Pregnant? Chloe's pregnant? Oh my God, Daniel, congratulations. I'm going to be an aunt. The joy in my voice was pure, untainted. It seemed to momentarily lift the weariness from his. Yeah, you are. When are you going to bring her home? I have to see her. Please? It might be a while, Sarah. She's tired a lot. The doctor says she needs to rest. She doesn't feel up to long car rides right now. Oh, okay. My excitement deflated slightly. Well, you make sure to take extra good care of her. You hear me? She's growing a tiny human. That's a very important job. I will, he promised. Listen, you just focus on your studies, get into a good college, and then you can come to the city and live with us, with all of us. I will, Daniel. I promise. My mind was already racing, picturing a tiny nephew or niece. Wait, if she's pregnant, when are you guys getting married? Next year, he said, the practiced excuse rolling easily off his tongue. Her dad passed away recently, so we have to wait. It's a respect thing. Oh, okay, that makes sense. We hung up, and I spent the rest of the day in a happy haze. I was going to have a nephew or a niece. My brother was building a family. Our family was growing. I had no idea that all through her pregnancy, Chloe used her fatigue and morning sickness as a shield, a perfect excuse to avoid ever setting foot in our small country house again. In her mind, our world was a stain she was desperate to scrub from her new, carefully constructed life. To her, we weren't family. We were a liability. The months passed in a blur of morning sickness for her and relentless work for him. For every craving she had, Daniel would run to the store. For every complaint, he would offer a solution. He was the perfect partner, the perfect caregiver, but to Chloe, he was never enough. She was ambitious, a social climber trapped in a situation she hadn't chosen. She wanted a man who could give her a life of luxury, of ease, a man who drove a BMW, not a man who took the bus. And every time she looked at her growing belly, a silent resentment festered. It was a constant physical reminder of the night she'd lost control, the night she'd tied herself to a man she considered beneath her. On my 18th birthday, Daniel finally came home, alone. I was waiting on the porch, my eyes scanning the road, hoping to see a car pull up with both of them inside. But it was just him, stepping off the late afternoon bus, looking thinner and more worn out than I'd ever seen him. My heart sank. Chloe, she didn't come? He forced a weary smile. She's not feeling well, Sarah. The baby's getting bigger, It's hard for her to move around, but she sent this for you. He handed me a small, neatly wrapped gift. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet. It was beautiful, but it felt cold, impersonal. For nearly a year, I hadn't even seen a picture of this woman, let alone met her. She was a ghost in our lives. Aunt Clara must have seen the disappointment on my face. She came out onto the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. Don't you look so sad, Sarah? In another month or so, Chloe will have that baby, and then we can all go up to the city to visit. You'll get to meet your new sister-in-law and your new nephew, 2 for the price of 1. Her words worked their magic, and my smile returned, genuine this time. You're right, that'll be even better. That evening, a storm rolled in, the rain lashing against the windows, the wind howling through the trees. It was the kind of storm that made you feel safe and cozy to be inside. After dinner, Daniel called Chloe, telling her he'd stay the night and take the first bus back in the morning. I heard her indifferent okay through the phone. It was clear she didn't mind him being gone. He and I sat in the living room, the low light casting long shadows on the walls. "Did you do well on your exams?" he asked, his voice soft. "Top of my class," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Of course." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled envelope, handing it to me. "This is for you, for your birthday." I opened it. Inside were $200. My eyes widened. "Daniel, this is too much. You need this. For the baby." "I'm fine," he insisted. "You need new clothes, I've noticed. Your old ones are getting worn out." "I don't need anything," I said, trying to push the money back into his hand. "Aunt Clara gives me an allowance. I'm fine, really. Just take it, Sarah," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "Please, I'm your big brother. Let me take care of you." I finally relented, a lump forming in my throat. "Okay, thank you." We sat in silence for a moment, listening to the rain. "You're a senior this year, huh?" he said, a nostalgic smile touching his lips. "Time flies. Feels like just yesterday I was teaching you how to ride a bike. Have you thought about which college you want to apply to?" "Of course," I said, my passion reignited. "I'm applying to Northwood University for their literature program. It's the best in the state." And the world seemed to spin on a single, fragile thread of hope. We talked for hours, planning a future that felt so close, so real. A future where I would be in the city with them, where we would be a family. But then, the thread snapped. The phone rang just after midnight, a shrill, terrifying sound that cut through the howl of the storm. Aunt Clara answered it. I saw her face go pale, her hand fly to her mouth. She dropped the receiver, and it dangled by its cord, a tinny, official-sounding voice echoing into the silent room. "Clara, what is it?" "What's wrong?" Daniel asked, already on his feet. She couldn't speak. She just pointed a trembling finger at the phone. Daniel picked it up. "Hello?" "Yes, this is he." "What?" No, you must be mistaken." His voice was hollow, disbelieving. His face had turned a ghastly shade of white. He listened for another moment, his knuckles white as he gripped the phone, and then he let it fall from his hand. It was a call from the city. From a hospital. Chloe had gone into labor early. Daniel had to get back. Now. But the storm was raging. The buses weren't running until morning. He was frantic, pacing the floor like a caged animal. He had to be there. He grabbed his jacket. "I have to go." "Daniel, you can't," Aunt Clara cried. "The roads are flooded. It's not safe." "I don't care. I have to get to her." He ran out into the storm, into the driving rain and the darkness. He stood in the middle of the deserted, rain-slicked highway, a desperate, solitary figure trying to flag down a car, any car. A pair of headlights cut through the torrential downpour. A car was coming, fast. Daniel, blinded by desperation and the pouring rain, stood his ground, waving his arms, believing it would stop. It didn't. The screech of tires was lost in a clap of thunder. The impact was brutal. He was thrown through the air, a broken doll tossed aside by a careless giant, landing dozens of feet away in a ditch by the side of the road. The driver, panicked and scared, didn't even slow down. He just hit the gas and disappeared into the night, leaving my brother lying broken and alone in the storm. In the sterile, fluorescent-lit world of the hospital, Chloe had just given birth to a baby boy. Her mother, holding the tiny, red-faced infant, brought him to her bedside. "Look, Chloe," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Look at your son. He's beautiful. Chloe looked at the baby, a strange, detached expression on her face. She managed a weak, joyless smile. This child was the reason her life was a mess. Her mother, noticing Daniel's absence, frowned. "Why isn't Daniel here yet? Have you called him?" "I tried. He's not picking up." Chloe reached for her phone to try again, but as she picked it up, it rang. An unknown number. She answered. The voice on the other end was calm, professional, and devastating. A police officer. He informed her that there had been an accident, that the man whose ID they found in the wallet, Daniel Miller, hadn't survived. Chloe's world tilted. The phone slipped from her numb fingers and clattered onto the linoleum floor. She was in shock. She had just brought their son into the world, and in the same breath, Daniel had been taken out of it. She looked at the baby, this tiny, helpless creature sleeping in her mother's arms. He was the reason. He was the chain that had bound her to Daniel. And now, the other end of that chain was gone. What was she supposed to do now? Back home, the news hit us like a physical blow. When the police officer came to our door, his face grim under the dripping brim of his hat, I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't. My brother, my Daniel, gone. I screamed. A raw, animal sound of pure agony. The world went black, and I collapsed. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. The funeral had already happened. He was gone, and I didn't even get to say goodbye. I went home to a house that felt empty, haunted by his absence. I clutched the framed photo of him on the mantelpiece, my tears soaking into the glass, my body racked with sobs that felt like they were tearing me apart from the inside out. My parents were gone. Now my brother was gone. I was utterly, completely alone. And in the city, another tragedy was unfolding. A quieter, colder one. Chloe's mother, cradling her grandson, found her daughter staring blankly at her phone, the baby's cries filling the small apartment. "Chloe, the baby's crying. Pick him up. He needs to eat." "I don't want to," Chloe said, her voice flat, devoid of all emotion. "You hold him. I'm not breastfeeding him. Go make him a bottle," her mother sighed, her heart aching for her daughter, for this poor, motherless child. "Chloe, I know you're grieving. I know this is hard, but you can't neglect your son. He needs you." Chloe's head snapped up, her eyes flashing with a cold, hard light. "I had this baby for him because he promised to take responsibility, but now he's dead, so I don't need this baby anymore. Do you understand?" Her mother recoiled, stunned into silence by the sheer cruelty of her daughter's words. She looked from Chloe's unfeeling face to the crying infant in her arms. In that moment, she realized she hadn't just lost a potential son-in-law. She had lost a part of her daughter, too. For the next month, a cold, silent war was waged in that small city apartment. Chloe refused to touch her son. She wouldn't hold him, wouldn't feed him, wouldn't even look at him for more than a fleeting second. He was a piece of evidence from a crime she wanted to forget. The baby's cries were a constant soundtrack to her detachment, a sound she learned to tune out like the city traffic outside her window. It was her mother, a woman now burdened with the ghost of her daughter's humanity, who did everything. She was the one who mixed the formula, who changed the diapers, who walked the floors at 3 a.m. With a screaming infant in her arms, she would bring the baby to Chloe's room at night, but Chloe would turn her back, pulling the covers over her head, effectively banishing them both. Finally, when the baby was just over a month old, Chloe made her decision. The idea had been taking root in her mind, a dark and insidious weed, and now it had fully bloomed. She was going to give him away. Her mother was horrified. "You can't, Chloe. He's your son. He's a mistake," Chloe shot back, her voice raw. "A mistake that is ruining my life. I'm not going to be tied down by him. I'm not." The next day, while her mother was out buying groceries, Chloe acted. She packed a small bag for the baby, wrote a short, anonymous note, and then she did the unthinkable. She took a bus back to our small town, back to the one place she had sworn she would never return. She walked up the familiar gravel driveway, her heart a cold, hard knot in her chest. The house was empty, quiet. She pushed open the unlocked door, stepped inside, and placed the sleeping infant, bundled in a cheap blanket, in the middle of the living room floor. She placed the note on his chest, then she turned and walked away without a backward glance. She left a piece of her own flesh and blood on the floor of a house she despised, and vanished. She returned to the city as if nothing had happened. She changed her phone number. She sold the apartment and moved with her mother to a different part of the city, a place where no one knew her, where no one could find her. She was erasing her past, scrubbing clean the stain of Daniel and their child. Her mother, broken and defeated by her only daughter's coldness, followed along, a silent, complicit partner in this act of abandonment. I came home from school that afternoon, my body still heavy with a grief that felt like a physical weight. The world had lost its color. Every day was just a series of motions, a struggle to get out of bed, to breathe, to exist in a world without my brother. As I opened the front door, I heard it, a faint, mewling cry. My first thought was that a stray kitten had somehow gotten inside. I followed the sound into the living room, and my blood ran cold. There, on the worn-out rug, was a baby, a tiny, living, breathing infant, his little fists balled up, his face red from crying. A piece of folded paper was resting on his chest. My hands trembled as I reached down and picked him up. He was so light, so fragile. I held him close, my heart pounding a frantic, confused rhythm against my ribs. Then I unfolded the note. The words were written in a neat, impersonal script. "This is Daniel Miller's son. I had him because Daniel promised he would take responsibility. Now that he's gone, I'm bringing the baby here. I trust that you will take care of him. As for me, consider me dead. Don't try to find me." It wasn't signed. The world seemed to spin. I stared at the tiny face nestled in my arms, a face I'd never seen before, and yet, in the curve of his mouth, in the shape of his eyes, I saw him. I saw Daniel. This was his son, my nephew. Just then, Aunt Clara walked in, her arms full of groceries. She stopped dead in the doorway, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Sarah, whose baby is that?" I couldn't speak. I just held out the note, my hand shaking so badly I could barely keep it steady. She took it, her eyes scanning the words. A low gasp escaped her lips and her knees buckled. She dropped to the floor, the bag of groceries spilling around her. That Chloe," she whispered, her voice a mixture of horror and fury. How could she? How could any mother just abandon her own child? He's done nothing wrong. Why would she do this? Tears streamed down her face. "What are we going to do, Sarah? What are we supposed to do now?" "We have to find her," I said, my voice finding a strength I didn't know I possessed. "We have to find Chloe. Maybe she'll change her mind. Maybe she was just scared." The next few days were a frantic, desperate blur. I took the bus to the city, armed with the address Daniel had given me months ago. But when I got there, the apartment was empty. A neighbor told me the women who lived there had sold it and moved away, leaving no forwarding address. I went to the marketing firm where Daniel and Chloe had worked. The receptionist informed me, coolly, that Chloe had resigned a few weeks ago. No, they didn't have any contact information for her. Every lead was a dead end. Every door was closed. She had vanished, erasing herself as completely as if she'd never existed. I returned home, defeated, the weight of our new reality crashing down on me. He was ours now. This tiny, abandoned baby was ours. We went to the county office and filed the paperwork for a birth certificate. We named him Leo Miller, a strong name. A name that meant lion-hearted. We hoped it would give him the strength he would so clearly need. At first, Aunt Clara, ever the pragmatist, suggested the only logical solution. We should take him to an orphanage, Sarah. My heart seized. No, honey, listen to me, she pleaded, her eyes full of a painful wisdom. We can't do this. You're still in school. You have your whole life ahead of you. A baby. A baby will change everything. I knew she was right, but I looked down at the little boy sleeping in my arms, his tiny chest rising and falling in a steady, trusting rhythm, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't be another person who abandoned him. But Aunt Clara persisted. So, one gray, miserable morning, I bundled Leo up and took him to the St. Jude's Children's Home on the edge of town. I told the kind-faced woman at the front desk that I just needed to leave him here for a little while, that I would come back for him as soon as I got a job, as soon as I had money. She took him from my arms, and the moment he was no longer touching me, Leo's face crumpled, and he let out a piercing, heartbroken wail. It wasn't a cry of hunger or discomfort. It was a cry of pure, unadulterated terror, a cry of abandonment. That sound shattered something inside me. I snatched him back, holding him tight against my chest, his tears soaking into my shirt. I can't, I whispered, my own tears starting to fall. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I walked out of that orphanage and never looked back. I went home and faced my aunt, my resolve as hard as steel. He's staying, I said, my voice unwavering. I'll raise him. I'll be his mother. Aunt Clara looked at me, her face a canvas of worry and despair. Sarah, are you insane? You're still in high school? If you do this, what will people say? What will they think of you? I don't care what they think, I said, my voice rising with a fierce, protective love I had never felt before. Chloe abandoned him. If I abandon him too, what kind of life will he have? What kind of person will I be? But your future, Sarah, your dreams, college, this will ruin everything. No, it won't, I insisted, though a cold knot of fear was tightening in my stomach. I can do this, Aunt Clara. I know I can. From now on, he's not my nephew. He's my son. I'll take Daniel's place. I'll raise him to be a good man. She saw the look in my eyes, the unshakable determination, and she knew she had lost. She sighed, a long, ragged breath of surrender, and finally, she nodded. She couldn't bear to see another child she loved suffer. And just like that, my life took a sharp, irrevocable turn. I was no longer Sarah Miller, the quiet, bookish high school junior with dreams of university. I was Sarah Miller, the 17-year-old single mother, and I decided, in that moment, to protect Leo from the truth. I would be his mother. The world could think what it wanted, but he would never know the pain of being abandoned by the woman who gave birth to him. He would only know my love. My life of lies, my path of thorns and sacrifice had just begun, and I had no idea how sharp those thorns would be. My world shrank to the size of a baby. My days became a relentless cycle of feedings, diaper changes, and homework, all managed in a haze of sleep deprivation. Aunt Clara would watch Leo while I was at school, her initial disapproval melting away into a doting, grandmotherly love. But the moment I got home, he was my responsibility. My final year of high school, the year that was supposed to be about prom and college applications, was spent with a textbook in one hand and a baby in the other. The whispers started almost immediately. In a small town, a secret is a fire in a dry field, and my secret was a wildfire. I hadn't been pregnant, and then, suddenly, I had a baby. The math was simple, and the conclusion was damning. Did you hear about Sarah Miller? She has a baby. What? No way. When was she even pregnant? Must have been over the winter. All those baggy sweaters. She must have hidden it. Oh my God, how trashy. Getting pregnant in high school, and without a husband. I heard she got knocked up when she was 17. Can you imagine? The rumors spread through the hallways of Northwood High like a plague. I became a ghost. Friends I'd known since kindergarten would suddenly find their lockers fascinating when I walked by. People would stop talking when I entered a room, only to resume their hushed, judgmental conversations the moment I passed. I was a leper, an outcast, the school's cautionary tale. The only person who didn't abandon me was Emily. She was my rock, my one constant in a sea of shifting allegiances. But even she was confused. Sarah, you know you can tell me anything, right? She asked one afternoon as we sat in the corner of the library. The only place I felt I could breathe. I know, this baby. You didn't just find him, did you? The lie tasted like ash in my mouth. No, Em. I gave birth to him. But when? I never saw you. You know, I looked down at my textbook, unable to meet her gaze. I wore baggy clothes. I strapped my stomach down. I didn't want anyone to know. It was a weak, flimsy explanation, but it was all I had. So, who's the father? She pressed, her voice gentle, full of a concern that made the lie even harder to bear. I took a deep breath. He had to go overseas. For work. He'll be back. He's going to take responsibility. Eventually, Emily looked at me, her brow furrowed with skepticism. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. But she also saw the desperation in mine, the silent plea to just let it go. And because she was a true friend, she did. Okay, she said, forcing a smile. Okay, Sarah. From that day on, she became my fierce, loyal defender. She would glare at the girls who whispered, and she would stand by my side in the cafeteria when no one else would. But she couldn't be there all the time. My days were a grueling routine. School, then home to Leo. My nights were a blur of studying and rocking a crying baby. I was 18, but I felt ancient, weighed down by a responsibility that was slowly crushing my spirit. I loved Leo with a ferocity that scared me sometimes, but the sacrifice was immense. The dream of college, of Northwood University and its hallowed literature department, faded from a bright, shining star to a distant, dying ember. The cruelty at school escalated. It was no longer just whispers. It was open taunts. It was notes left in my locker calling me a slut, a whore. One afternoon, I was in class, trying to focus on a lecture about Shakespearean tragedies, when a group of girls, led by Jessica, the queen bee of our year, walked over to my desk. Shouldn't you be at home breastfeeding? Jessica asked, her voice loud enough for the whole class to hear. A few people snickered. I sighed, my exhaustion too deep to even muster anger. Go back to your seats, Jessica. Don't start with me. Ooh, she's got an attitude, one of her friends sneered. I was just asking. A friendly question. I mean, you did just pop out a kid, right? I said, leave me alone. That's when they got physical. Jessica's friend, Amy, grabbed a handful of my hair and slammed my head down onto my desk. The impact sent a jolt of pain through my skull. The others started slapping my face, their hands like angry wasps. You think you're better than us, you little charity case whore? Knocked up little tramp. You're a disgrace to this school. The teacher walked in just then, and they scattered, melting back to their seats like shadows. Jessica shot me a look over her shoulder, a silent, vicious threat. Tell anyone, and it'll be worse. I didn't tell. I was too tired, too beaten down. I just wanted to be invisible. I thought if I just endured it, they would eventually get bored and leave me alone. But I was wrong. My silence only emboldened them. It all came to a head on that crisp autumn afternoon on the bridge over Miller's Creek, after they blocked my path and threw my bike into the water, after they kicked me and called me every vile name they could think of. Marcus Thorne appeared, the one person in the entire school who was more of an outcast than I was. And he saved me. He didn't just scare them off. He waded into that freezing, murky creek and pulled my rusty, mud-caked bike out of the water. He hauled it back up the embankment, his jeans soaked, his hands covered in grime. My head was spinning, my ribs ached, but I managed to stammer, "Thank you." "Can you stand?" he asked, his voice a low rumble. I tried, but a wave of dizziness washed over me. "Right," he said, more to himself than to me. He looked at my bike. "That thing's not going anywhere tonight." He looked at me. "Come on, I'll walk you home." "But my bike, it'll be here tomorrow. No one's gonna steal that piece of junk." It was a statement of fact, not an insult. "Let's go." He didn't offer his hand. He just started walking, and I stumbled along beside him. My protector, this strange, silent boy who everyone was afraid of. The walk was silent for a long time. I was too shaken to speak, and he didn't seem like the talkative type. "Why did you help me?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. He shrugged, not looking at me. "I don't like bullies, and I don't like seeing a bunch of them ganging up on one person. It's not a good look." "Thank you," I said again, feeling the inadequacy of the words. I'll never forget this." He just grunted in response. We reached my house, the porch light casting a warm, welcoming glow. He stopped at the end of the driveway. "You'll be okay from here?" "Yes, thank you, Marcus." He gave a short, sharp nod and turned to leave. "Wait," I called out. He stopped, turning back to look at me, his expression unreadable in the dim light. "Why are you being so nice to me?" I asked. "Everyone else. They treat me like I'm garbage." He was silent for a moment, his gaze fixed on me. "Because," he said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it, "they're wrong." And with that, he walked off into the darkness, leaving me standing in the driveway, my heart a confused and aching mess. After that day, everything changed. The next morning, the entire school was buzzing. Marcus Thorne, the untouchable, the loner, had walked me home. And then, he started waiting for me after school every day. He didn't say much. He'd just lean against the wall by the school gates, and when I came out, he'd nod and we'd walk home together. I'd walk, he'd push his own beat-up motorcycle. The bullying stopped. Overnight, no one dared to even look at me the wrong way when Marcus Thorne was my shadow. He became my unlikely friend. On the weekends, he'd show up at my door with a carton of milk or a bag of diapers for Leo. He never said anything about it. He'd just hand them to me and ask if I needed anything else. He was gentle with Leo, holding him with a surprising tenderness, his large, calloused hands looking impossibly soft against Leo's tiny body. Of course, a new rumor started, that Marcus was the father, that he was finally stepping up. It was absurd, but it was easier for people to believe that than to believe that he was just being kind. The rumors bothered me. I felt like I was dragging him down into my own personal swamp of disgrace. "Marcus, I'm sorry," I said one afternoon as we sat on my front porch, watching Leo sleep in his carrier. "Because of me, everyone's saying things about you." He laughed, a short, humorless sound. "You think I care what those idiots say? Let them talk. It's just noise. But it's not fair to you. Life's not fair," he said, his gaze distant. He looked at me, a strange seriousness in his eyes. "That baby, he's really yours?" I nodded, the lie catching in my throat. "Yes, Leo's my son. And his dad? The guy you told Emily about? The one who's overseas?" I hesitated, then nodded again. "Yes, he's working. He'll be back in a few years." Marcus looked down at his hands, a shadow passing over his face. "Oh, right, I see." He stood up abruptly. "I should go." "Marcus, what's wrong?" "Nothing," he said, his voice suddenly guarded. "Just got some stuff to think about." He paused at the edge of the porch. "Hey, Sarah." "Yeah?" "After graduation, my family and I are moving to Japan. My dad and my brother are already there. My mom's just waiting for me to finish school." My heart sank. "Oh, you're leaving?" "Yeah. Family reunion, I guess." He gave a small, sad smile. "So, you take care of yourself, okay?" And the little guy, he didn't wait for a reply. He just walked away. And I knew, with a certainty that ached in my bones, that I had just lost the only friend I had. I had pushed him away with a lie I had created to protect my son. Our strange, beautiful friendship ended there. Graduation came and went. Marcus left for Japan, and I was alone again. My dream of college was officially dead. I took a job at a local convenience store, working long hours for minimum wage, every dollar going to diapers and formula. Life became a monotonous, grinding routine. And so the years passed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 years. An eternity. Leo was 6 years old now, a bright, beautiful boy just starting first grade. And I was 24, though most days I felt closer to 40. The convenience store job had morphed into a delivery driver position for the same store. It was grueling work, but it paid the bills, just barely. Over those 6 years, the town's memory had softened. The sharp edges of my scandal had been worn down by time. The whispers had faded, replaced by a sort of grudging respect. I was the single mom who worked her fingers to the bone, who never asked for a handout, who was raising a polite, well-behaved son all on her own. The narrative had shifted. I was no longer the town tramp. I was the town martyr. I didn't know which label I hated more. For me, Leo was my entire world. He was the reason I got up in the morning, the reason I endured the long hours and the aching loneliness. He was my purpose. The lie I had built around his birth had become our reality, a wall I had constructed to protect him. I had long ago decided I would never marry, never even date. My life was dedicated to him. He was all that mattered. Then, one day, the foundation of my carefully constructed, fragile world began to shake. The convenience store was sold. The new owners were turning it into a boutique coffee shop. I was given 2 weeks' notice, panic set in, cold and sharp. I needed a job, and fast. But the factories near our town demanded 12-hour shifts, weekends included. I couldn't do that. I had to be there for Leo, to pick him up from school, to help him with his homework. I was venting my frustrations to Emily, who had defied the small-town odds, gone to college, and come back to teach at our old elementary school. She was Leo's first-grade teacher, a small, perfect circle of fate that I was endlessly grateful for. "I'm freaking out, Em," I said, pacing her small, sunny living room. "There's nothing. All the jobs around here want you to work hours that are impossible for a single mom." "Hey, calm down," she said, ever my voice of reason. "What about the new industrial park? The one they built out by the highway. I heard there are a ton of new companies moving in. There's a big electronics company, TCL Technologies. They're hiring like crazy. That's like a 10-mile drive," I groaned. "So, the pay is way better than what you were making." "And look," she said, her eyes sparkling with the solution before she even said it. "I'm Leo's teacher. I can bring him home with me after school. On the days you can't get back in time, I'll pick him up. What are friends for?" The relief was so immense it almost brought me to my tears. I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking, I'm offering," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "We've been friends for 20 years. Now, go update your resume." The next day, I drove out to the sprawling, modern campus of TCL Technologies and applied for a position in their warehouse. To my surprise, I got a call for an interview the very next day. I stood in front of my bedroom mirror that morning, trying to turn my worn-out black pants and a second-hand blouse into something resembling professional attire. Leo ran in, his hair still messy from sleep. "Mommy, where are you going?" "I have a job interview, sweetie." "But you just lost your job. Why don't you take a little break?" he asked, his 6-year-old logic both adorable and heart-wrenching. "I wish I could, honey, but we need money for you, to go to school, and for us to eat. And if I get this job, I'll take you out for ice cream after I pick you up from school. Okay?" "Okay," he chirped, his face lighting up. "Good luck, Mommy. I hope you get the best job in the whole world." He threw his arms around my legs and hugged me tight. In that moment, all the years of struggle, of sacrifice, of loneliness, they all melted away. This boy, this wonderful, incredible boy, was worth every single hardship. He was my everything. The interview went surprisingly well. They offered me a position in the cold storage warehouse, handling sensitive electronic components. The hours were manageable, the pay was decent, and I could start the next day. I floated out of the building, a huge weight lifted from my shoulders. I was driving home, my old, beat-up sedan rattling along the country road, when my phone rang. It was Emily. I pulled over to the side of the road to answer. "Guess what?" I said, unable to contain my excitement. "I got the job. I start tomorrow." "That's amazing, Sarah. I knew you would." "What department?" "Cold storage." "Oh, that's great. We have to celebrate." I was so caught up in the conversation that I didn't hear the car coming up behind me. Not until it was too late. There was a deafening crunch of metal on metal. My car was thrown forward, spinning off the road and plunging nose first into the muddy irrigation ditch that ran alongside it. The world was a blur of motion, of shattered glass and the smell of swamp water. I scrambled out of the car, soaked and furious, and looked back at the road. A sleek, black, ridiculously expensive-looking car was stopped in the middle of the road. "Are you blind?" I screamed, my voice shaking with adrenaline and rage. "Look what you did to my car. How am I supposed to get it out of there?" The tinted driver's side window slid down with a smooth, electronic hum. The man behind the wheel didn't even look at me. He was wearing a perfectly tailored suit, his handsome face set in a mask of bored annoyance. "What are you yelling about?" he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I'll pay for the damages. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal?" I shrieked. "You ran me off the road, and you think throwing money at it makes it okay? Get out of your damn car and help me get mine out of this ditch." He finally turned to look at me, his eyes dismissive. "I'm tired. I'm not doing that. You are the most arrogant, infuriating." "Look," he said, cutting me off. "I'm really not feeling well. Honestly." He reached into his glove compartment, pulled out a thick wad of cash, and tossed it out the window. It landed in a puddle at my feet. Then he revved the engine, deliberately spraying me with a shower of mud and gravel as he sped away. I stood there, soaked, muddy, and shaking with a rage so pure it felt white hot. "You asshole!" I screamed after his retreating car. "I hope I never see you again, but if I do, you are so dead." I had to wade into the filthy ditch to push my car out. A couple of passing farmers stopped to help, their faces a mixture of pity and amusement. The engine was flooded. It wouldn't start. I had to walk 2 miles, dragging my dripping, muddy self to the nearest garage. Every step of the way, I cursed the handsome, arrogant man in the black car. I didn't know his name, but I would never forget his face. The next morning, I started my new job at TCL. The work was clean, the environment was quiet, and my new coworker, a friendly, middle-aged woman named Jane, was a godsend. She showed me the ropes, and by lunchtime, I felt like I was starting to get the hang of things. "Hey, Sarah," Jane said, handing me a sealed box of components. "Can you take this up to the 2nd floor for me? Give it to the production manager, Chloe." The name sent a small, cold jolt through me. Chloe, a common enough name, it couldn't be. I took the box upstairs and entered the bustling production office. "Excuse me," I said to a woman at the front desk. "I'm looking for Chloe." "The manager?" "That's her, over there," the woman said, pointing to a woman with her back to me, standing by a large window. "Chloe, someone's here to see you." The woman turned around, and my world stopped. She was older, of course, thinner. Her hair was different, cut in a sleek, professional bob. But it was her, the eyes, the shape of her face. It was the woman from the photograph, the one my brother had been with, the one who had given birth to Leo, the woman who had abandoned him. She smiled at me, a polite, professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, can I help you?" I have a delivery for you," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. "From Jane, in the warehouse." "Oh, right. Thank you," she said, taking the box from my numb hands. She gave me a once-over, her eyes professionally curious. "You're new, aren't you?" "Yes, today's my first day." "Well, welcome to TCL. Keep up the good work." She smiled again. "What's your name?" My heart was a jackhammer against my ribs. My mind was screaming. "She doesn't recognize you. She has no idea who you are." It's Sarah," I managed to choke out. Her smile widened slightly. "Sarah, that's a lovely name. I'm Chloe. It's a pleasure to meet you." She had no idea that the new warehouse worker was her abandoned son's aunt. No idea that for the past 6 years I had been raising the child she had thrown away. I mumbled my thanks and fled, my legs unsteady, my vision blurring. I stumbled back down to the warehouse, my mind a chaotic whirlwind of shock and anger, and a grief so profound it felt like a physical wound reopening. After 6 years, I had finally found her, and she was right here, working in the same building, and she didn't have a clue. The irony was so bitter, so cruel. It was almost laughable. The universe, it seemed, had a very sick sense of humor. I stumbled back into the cold, sterile air of the warehouse, my mind reeling. I leaned against a shelving unit, trying to catch my breath, trying to make sense of the cosmic joke that had just been played on me. Jane found me there, her face etched with concern. "Sarah, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I have, I thought. The ghost of my brother's life. The ghost of my son's mother. I'm fine. I lied, forcing a smile that felt like it was cracking my face. Just feeling a little overwhelmed, I guess. New job jitters. "Oh, honey, don't you worry," she said, patting my arm sympathetically. "Everyone here is really nice. You'll get the hang of it." "Did you meet the manager, Chloe?" Yes, I did. "Isn't she something?" Jane gushed, oblivious to the turmoil raging inside me. "So beautiful and so smart. And she's the CEO's girlfriend, you know, the CEO. Yep, Mr. Nathan himself, a real power couple. They say she's young for a manager, only 30, but she looks like she's 25. Must be nice. 30. The math clicked into place in my head. 6 years ago, she would have been 24, the same age I was now. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, moving on autopilot, my hands performing the tasks while my mind was a million miles away. Chloe, here. All this time, she had been living her life, climbing the corporate ladder, dating the CEO, while I was scraping by, raising her son, bearing the scarlet letter of her sin. The injustice of it was a bitter pill to swallow. For 6 years, she had never once tried to find him, never once tried to see if the baby she abandoned was alive or dead. She had simply moved on, and I hadn't recognized her at first. 6 years is a long time. People change, and I had only ever seen that one faded photograph. But she hadn't recognized me either. Why would she? She had never bothered to meet her boyfriend's little sister. In her world, I didn't exist. Meanwhile, on the top floor of TCL Technologies, Chloe was pouring a cup of coffee. She carried it into a spacious, sunlit office with a panoramic view of the rolling hills outside. A man was sitting behind a large mahogany desk, his back to her, staring at some documents. This was Nathan, the CEO. "Coffee, Nathan?" she said, her voice soft and solicitous. "Thanks, Chloe," he said, not looking up. "Did you get a chance to look over the quarterly reports I sent you?" "I did. They look good. I'll approve them this afternoon." "Thank you," she said, a hint of pride in her voice. She walked around the desk, placing the coffee mug down beside him. "So, are you adjusting to being back here?" In the countryside. This factory was a new branch of the company, a satellite location opened just 6 months ago. The main headquarters were in the city. "It's different," he said, finally looking up. "I'm used to the city. I miss it." "Me too," she sighed dramatically. "But don't worry. As soon as Marcus gets back, we can go back to the city, and he can take over here." "Marcus is coming back?" "Yes," I called him. "He needs to come back and help me run this place." "I can't be in 2 places at once," Nathan said, a note of weariness in his voice. "That's great," she said, her face brightening. "Then you and I can go back to the city, and you won't have to keep driving back and forth. I'll still have to come down here to help him get settled in." "Well, eventually, you won't have to," she said, her voice turning persuasive. She reached out and began to massage his shoulders. "You know, my mother was asking about you. She said it's been a while since you came over for dinner. He stiffened slightly under her touch. I've been busy, Chloe. I know, but what about tonight? You look so tired. Let me take care of you. He gently shrugged her hands off. I'm not in the mood. Maybe some other time. The smile on her face faltered, but she recovered quickly. Okay, of course. Well, I'll let you get back to work. She walked out of the office, her professional mask slipping the moment the door closed behind her. A flicker of frustration and insecurity crossed her face. For 3 years, she had been chasing Nathan. Their mothers were friends, having met at a yoga studio, and had decided their children would be a perfect match. Chloe had been captivated by him from their first meeting. He was everything she had ever wanted in a man. Handsome, successful, wealthy. He was her ticket to the life she felt she deserved. But Nathan had never been more than lukewarm. He was polite, he was cordial, but there was a distance, a wall she could never seem to breach. He had agreed to get to know her, to appease his mother, but in 3 years, he had never once made a real move, never once said the words she was desperate to hear. Their relationship was a strange, undefined limbo, a fact she conveniently omitted when she let the office gossip mill anoint her as the CEO's fiancé. She was determined to have him, and she wasn't going to let a little thing like his complete lack of romantic interest in her stand in her way. The end of the workday came as a relief. I felt like I had been holding my breath for 8 solid hours. I just wanted to get home, to see Leo, to ground myself in the one pure, uncomplicated thing in my life. I was driving home on that same stretch of country road, the evening air cool and calming. The trauma of the previous day's accident had faded, replaced by the much larger trauma of seeing Chloe. I slowed down, taking a deep breath, trying to enjoy the simple peace of the moment. And then it happened again. The same black car, the same deafening crunch of metal. For the second time in 2 days, my car was sent spinning into the irrigation ditch. I crawled out, dripping and shaking with a rage that was almost biblical. I saw him, the same arrogant, handsome man, stopped in the middle of the road. You, I shrieked, my voice cracking with disbelief. Again, are you stalking me? Are you trying to kill me? This time, he didn't even bother to speak. The window slid down, a hand emerged, and another thick wad of cash was thrown onto the road. And then he just drove away, leaving me standing in a cloud of dust and impotent fury. I have never, in my entire life, felt a rage so profound. I wanted to hunt him down. I wanted to key his stupid, expensive car. I wanted to scream in his perfect, infuriating face until my throat was raw. It took me an hour to get the car out of the ditch and another hour to get it to the garage. By the time I walked in my front door, it was almost 7 o'clock. Emily had not only picked up Leo, but she had also given him a bath and was helping him with his homework at the kitchen table. Sarah, what happened to you? She exclaimed, her eyes wide as she took in my muddy, disheveled state. You look like you wrestled an alligator. Worse, I grumbled, collapsing into a kitchen chair. I was attacked by a moron. For the second time, I told her the whole story, my voice rising with indignation as I recounted the sheer arrogance of the man in the black car. Are you serious? Emily said, her own anger flaring in my defense. He just hit you and threw money at you? Twice? Who does that? What a complete and utter asshole. If you see him again, you should punch him right in his stupid, handsome face. Oh, I will, I vowed, my voice a low growl. You can count on that. This isn't over, not by a long shot. The next morning, I was driving to work, my mood still simmering with a low-grade fury. When I saw it, the black car, it was parked on the side of the road, and the man himself was standing by a roadside coffee stand, waiting for his order. This was it, my chance. I pulled my car over, got out, and marched up to him, my heart pounding with a righteous, vengeful rhythm. "Hey, you." He turned, a flicker of recognition in his eyes, but his expression remained one of bored indifference. "Yes? Don't you yes me, you menace. Do you have any idea the trouble you've caused me? I've spent the last 2 days pulling my car out of a ditch because of you. I've been covered in mud. I've had to walk for miles, and you haven't even had the decency to offer a simple apology. I paid you, didn't I?" he said, taking a sip of his coffee. "In fact, I'm pretty sure I paid you enough to buy 3 of those rust buckets you call a car. Why didn't you just buy a new one? It would have saved you a lot of trouble." That was it, the final straw. The sheer, unadulterated arrogance of it broke something inside me. "You think your money makes everything okay?" I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "You think you can just buy your way out of being a decent human being?" I took the 2 wads of cash out of my pocket. "Here's your money back," and I threw it in his face. The bills fluttered around him like giant green confetti. He was so stunned. He didn't even react. And in that moment of shocked silence, I acted. I kicked him, hard, right between the legs. He doubled over with a strangled gasp, his coffee splashing all over his expensive suit. I wasn't done. I grabbed a handful of his perfectly styled hair and slammed his face into the side of his car. "Let me tell you something," I hissed, my face inches from his. "Money doesn't give you a free pass to be an asshole. You treat people like trash. You're going to get treated like trash. Do you understand me?" He was groaning, clutching himself, his face pale with pain. I gave him one last, satisfying kick to the shin for good measure. Then I turned, walked back to my car, and drove away, a strange, exhilarating sense of victory surging through me as he slowly, painfully straightened up. His eyes fell on something on the ground, a small, plastic card that must have fallen out of my pocket during the scuffle. He picked it up. It was my TCL employee ID badge. Sarah Miller, it read. Warehouse Division. A slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. Back at the office, Chloe walked into Nathan's office with his morning coffee and stopped short. "Nathan, what happened to your face? It's all swollen." "I was attacked," he said, his voice a low growl. "What? By who? Did you call the police?" "It's not a big deal. Just a small matter." "How can you say it's not a big deal? Look at you. Let me get you some ice." "I don't need any ice," he said, waving her away. He held up my ID badge. "Tell this woman to come to my office. Now." Chloe took the badge. "This is one of the new warehouse workers. Where did you find this? Just tell her to come here. Immediately." "Okay." Of course. I was in the middle of inventory when Jane came rushing over. "Sarah, your ID badge. You dropped it somewhere. The CEO found it." My heart stopped. The CEO. "Yes. Chloe just came down. She said you need to go up to his office to get it back." "What did you do to get the big boss's attention on your second day?" My blood ran cold. It couldn't be. It was impossible. With a sense of impending doom, I took the elevator to the top floor. This was it. I was going to be fired on my 3rd day. I knocked on the door, my hand trembling. "Come in." I pushed the door open. He was standing with his back to me, looking out the window. All I could see was his broad shoulders in that same, now coffee-stained, expensive suit. "Sir," I said, my voice barely a squeak. "I'm Sarah. I'm here for my ID badge." He turned around, and my world imploded. It was him, the arrogant man from the side of the road, the man whose car I had just slammed his face into, the man I had kicked in the groin not 30 minutes ago, and he was the CEO of my new company. My mind went completely, utterly blank. I could only stare at him, at his swollen lip and the dark bruise forming on his cheek. A bruise that I had put there. "You," he said, his voice a low, dangerous purr. A slow smile spread across his bruised face. "We meet again." My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. My mouth was dry, my palms slick with a cold sweat. I was standing in the office of the CEO, a man I had physically assaulted less than an hour ago. My mind was a chaotic storm of panic, searching for an escape route that didn't exist. It's you," I stammered, the words feeling foreign and clumsy in my mouth. The jerk from the road. A corner of his bruised mouth twitched upwards. "And you're the violent woman who attacks her boss?" I have to admit, I'm surprised. I'm so sorry, sir," I blurted out, the words tumbling over each other in my haste. "I didn't know. If I had known who you were, You what?" he interrupted, his voice laced with a dangerous amusement. "You wouldn't have kicked me?" I couldn't answer. I just stood there, mortified, waiting for the inevitable. "You're fired." The words hung in the air between us, unspoken but deafening. He walked slowly around his desk and leaned against it, crossing his arms over his chest. He studied me for a long, silent moment, his gaze intense, analytical. I felt like a bug under a microscope. "You know," he said, his voice dropping to a surprisingly gentle tone, "I was in the wrong, both times. I was tired, distracted. I shouldn't have been driving, and I certainly shouldn't have treated you the way I did." He paused, his gaze unwavering. "So, I apologize." I blinked, stunned into silence. An apology? From him? "So," he continued, a faint smile playing on his lips, "I think we should call a truce." I found my voice, though it was barely a whisper. "A truce? You're not going to fire me." "Fire you?" He chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that was surprisingly pleasant. "No, I'm not a monster, Sarah. Besides," he added, his eyes twinkling with a mischief that completely transformed his face, "if I fire you, who will keep me on my toes?" I stared at him, my mind struggling to process this sudden, whiplash-inducing turn of events. He pushed himself off the desk and walked towards me, holding out my ID badge. His fingers brushed against mine as I took it, sending a small, unexpected jolt through my system. "Here," he said, "go back to work, and try not to assault any more of your superiors." "Yes, sir." "Thank you, sir," I mumbled, my face burning with a mixture of relief and residual embarrassment. I turned to flee, but his voice stopped me at the door. "Sarah?" "Yes, I don't think a simple truce is quite enough," he said, his tone thoughtful. "Considering the physical and emotional distress I've caused you, and the damage to my face," he added, gesturing to his swollen lip, "I think you owe me dinner." My head snapped back around. "Dinner?" "Yes, to make it up to me. My mouth is so swollen, I don't think I'll be able to eat solid food for a week. The least you can do is buy me a bowl of soup." Was he joking? I couldn't tell. His expression was completely serious. "Okay, sir," I stammered. "Whenever you're free." "Good. Give me your number. I'll call you." Numbly, I recited my phone number. He typed it into his phone, a satisfied smirk on his face. Excellent. Now, get back to work. I practically ran out of his office, my heart pounding, my mind a complete and utter mess. I didn't know what to think. The arrogant, infuriating man from the road was my boss, and he had just asked me to dinner. What in the world was happening? In another part of the building, Chloe was on the phone with her mother, her voice a low, frustrated hiss. He's busy, Mom. I told you. He's not going to come to dinner, but he hasn't been over in weeks. Her mother's voice whined through the phone. Is something wrong? Are you two fighting? Has he found someone else? No, of course not, Chloe snapped, a little too quickly. Don't be ridiculous. He's under a lot of stress with the new factory, that's all. Well, you need to lock that down, Chloe, her mother warned. You're 30 years old, he's 32. It's time to get married. You don't want to let a catch like him get away. I know, Mom. Chloe sighed, rubbing her temples. I'll talk to him. I have to go. She hung up the phone, a wave of anxiety washing over her. Her mother was right. Things with Nathan felt stagnant, stalled. She knew he didn't love her, but she had always believed she could win him over, that her persistence and beauty would eventually break down his defenses. But now, for the first time, a seed of doubt began to sprout. She stood up and walked to his office. She had to try again. She had to keep the pressure on. She found him staring out the window, a thoughtful, almost wistful expression on his face. Nathan, she said, her voice soft. Chloe, what is it? My mom, she really wants you to come for dinner. She says she misses you. I'm busy, Chloe, he said, his voice gentle but firm. I have a lot of work to do. I know, she said, her voice turning pleading. But you look so tired. You're working too hard, running back and forth between the city and here. You need a home-cooked meal. You need someone to take care of you. I'm fine. I just want to lie down. I don't feel like going anywhere. Okay, she said, her voice small, defeated. I'll tell her you're not feeling well. She turned to leave, her shoulders slumped. He spent the rest of the day buried in work, but when 8 o'clock rolled around, he didn't pack up to make the hour-long drive back to the city. He walked into the small, private resting suite attached to his office, a perk of being the CEO. It was fully furnished, a home away from home. I'm too tired to drive, he thought, collapsing onto the bed. I'll just stay here tonight, but there's no food here. Then, an idea struck him. A slow smile spread across his face. Wait a minute. Sarah still owes me dinner. He picked up his phone and dialed the number she had given him. I was at home, helping Leo with his spelling words, when my phone rang, an unknown number. Hello, Sarah? It's Nathan. My heart did a little flip. Oh, sir, hello. I'm cashing in that dinner voucher, he said, his voice light, playful. I'm starving. Come pick me up. I'm at the office. Now? But aren't you going back to the city? Nope, I have a room here. Driving back and forth is exhausting and dangerous. I might run into your car again, and then you'd have to assault me for a third time. I couldn't help but laugh. Okay. Give me 20 minutes. I changed into a clean pair of jeans, told Aunt Clara I was going out for a bit, and drove back to the factory. I found him waiting by the front gate, dressed in shorts and a t-shirt. The transformation was startling. In his casual clothes, he looked younger, less intimidating, almost normal. Wow, I said, a grin spreading across my face. Look at you. You look like a teenager." "Hey," he said, feigning offense. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It's just, I'm used to the suit." The serious CEO look. "Well, this is my off-the-clock, about to be treated to dinner by a beautiful woman look," he said with a wink. My cheeks flushed. "Right. Well, get in." "I'll drive," he said, taking the keys from my hand. "You can navigate. You know how to drive a rust bucket like this." "I grew up on cars like this," he said, a nostalgic smile on his face. The night was calm and peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaotic energy of the city. As we drove through the quiet country lanes, he seemed to relax, the tension melting from his shoulders. "It's so peaceful out here," he said, taking a deep breath of the cool night air. "I think I'm going to stay here more often." "You'd get bored," I said. "No, I don't think I would. I like this kind of peace." The moment felt almost romantic. The quiet road, the starry sky, the handsome man beside me. And then, a dog darted out from a nearby farm, barking furiously at my tires. Nathan, startled, swerved and slammed on the brakes. The engine, old and temperamental, sputtered, coughed, and died. The dog continued to bark, now circling the car. And then, to my utter astonishment, Nathan, the powerful CEO, the man who faced down corporate boards, let out a terrified yelp. "Oh my God, a dog. I hate dogs. It's just a dog." I laughed. "Just a dog? It's a monster. A beast. We have to get out of here." He fumbled with the ignition, but the old engine wouldn't turn over. "It's not starting. We're trapped." He threw open his door and started to run. "Run, Sarah. Save yourself." I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. Seeing this powerful, composed man reduced to a quivering mess by a friendly farm dog was the most hilarious thing I had ever seen. I got out of the car, clapped my hands, and shooed the dog away. It trotted off, its tail wagging. I found him 100 feet down the road, bent over, panting. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to stifle my giggles. I think I'm having a heart attack," he gasped. We were both laughing now, a shared, ridiculous moment that broke down the last of the barriers between us. But when we walked back to the car, a new, more serious problem presented itself. The car was gone. Where's my car?" I asked, my voice a stunned whisper. Nathan's face went pale. "Oh no, don't tell me. Someone stole your car?" My beat-up, rusty, 20-year-old sedan, with its dying engine and mismatched hubcaps, had been stolen. The absurdity of it was so overwhelming that all I could do was stand there and stare at the empty space on the side of the road, a fresh wave of hysterical laughter bubbling up in my chest. This man was a walking disaster. My laughter died down, replaced by a wave of despair. I sank to the ground, my head in my hands. My car is gone. Nathan, looking genuinely guilty, sat down on the dusty road beside me. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault." "It's not your fault a thief decided to steal the world's crappiest car," I mumbled, though a large part of me wanted to blame him for the sheer chaos he had brought into my life in the past 48 hours. "Don't worry," he said, his voice soft but firm. "I'll buy you a new one." "It's not about the money," I said, a tear of frustration rolling down my cheek. "That car, it was the last thing my brother gave me. It was all I had left of him." The confession slipped out before I could stop it. A raw and vulnerable piece of my heart laid bare on the side of a dark country road. He didn't say anything. He just sat there with me in the silence, a quiet, comforting presence. We ended up walking to a small diner, the only place that was still open. Over greasy burgers and lukewarm coffee, the awkwardness between us finally melted away. We talked. For hours, he told me about the pressures of running a company, about his complicated relationship with his mother, about his estranged younger brother, and I, in turn, told him about my life. I didn't tell him the truth about Leo, of course. The lie was too ingrained, too much a part of me, but I told him about my dreams of college, about the sacrifices I had made, about the fierce, all-consuming love I had for my son. He listened, really listened, with an intensity and a compassion that I hadn't experienced from anyone in a very long time. He drove me home in a taxi, and as we pulled up to my small, modest house, he remembered our first 2 disastrous encounters on this very road. A slow, sheepish grin spread across his face. "You know," he said, "I really am sorry about, well, everything. I was exhausted, stressed. I wasn't myself." "It's okay," I said, a genuine smile on my face. "Just try to get more sleep. For the safety of the general public." He laughed, a real, uninhibited sound. "I will, I promise." As he walked me to my door, the porch light flickered on, and the front door opened. Leo, in his superhero pajamas, came running out. "Mommy, you're home." He threw his arms around my legs, then looked up at the tall stranger standing beside me. Nathan froze, his eyes widening in surprise. He looked from Leo's small, curious face to mine, a million questions in his eyes. "This is..." he started, his voice trailing off. "This is my son," I said, my voice steady, my hand resting protectively on Leo's head. "Leo, this is Mr. Nathan, my boss." "Oh," Nathan said, the single word heavy with a mixture of shock and something else I couldn't quite decipher. You have a son." "Yes," I said, a hint of defiance in my voice. "I'm a single mother." "Right," he said, taking a small step back. "I see. Well, it was nice to meet you, Leo. I should go. I'll see you at work, Sarah." He turned and walked back to the waiting taxi, a strange, thoughtful expression on his face. I watched him go, a familiar coldness seeping into my heart. This was it. This was the moment it always ended. The moment they found out about Leo. The moment they ran. Nathan lay in his bed back at the factory's private suite, but he couldn't sleep. His mind was racing. Sarah, a single mother, a son who looked to be about 6 years old. That meant she must have had him when she was just a teenager. The image of her, fierce and protective, standing on her porch with her hand on her son's head, was seared into his brain. He had never met a woman like her. So strong, so resilient, so unapologetically herself. And he found himself, to his own surprise, incredibly, inexplicably drawn to her. He couldn't sleep. He picked up his phone and called his best friend, a man who had known him since college. "Hey, man, you're up late," his friend's groggy voice answered. "I need your advice," Nathan said, getting straight to the point. "At 2 a.m? This must be serious. Is it a woman?" "Yes." "Ha, I knew it. So, what's the problem?" "She has a kid." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "A kid? As in, a child?" "And she's a single mom." "Yes." "And you're hesitating?" his friend asked, his voice losing its playful tone. "No," Nathan said, a sudden clarity washing over him. "That's the thing. I'm not. I really, really like her. I'm just worried about the kid. What if he doesn't accept me?" His friend was silent for a moment. Then He said, "Look, man, love is messy. Life is messy. If you really care about this woman, then you care about her whole life, and that includes her son. If you love him like he's your own, if you're patient and kind and you show him that you're not going anywhere, he'll come around. Kids are smart. They know when someone is sincere." The words were simple, but they were exactly what Nathan needed to hear. "You're right. Thanks, man. Anytime. Now go get some sleep and go get your girl." Nathan hung up the phone, a new sense of purpose surging through him. He knew what he had to do. He spent the rest of the night online, not looking at corporate reports, but at pictures of brand new scooters. The next morning, I was getting ready to walk to the bus stop, a journey that was now going to be a permanent and inconvenient part of my daily routine, when a delivery truck pulled up in front of my house. Two men got out and unloaded a brand new, gleaming, sky blue Vespa scooter. "Are you Sarah Miller?" one of them asked. "Yes. Sign here, please. This is for you." "But I didn't order a scooter," I said, completely bewildered. "It was a gift," the man said, a tired smile on his face. "From a Mr. Nathan. He was at our dealership at 4 o'clock this morning, banging on the door. Woke my boss right out of his bed." I stared at the beautiful, ridiculously expensive scooter, a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. He had bought me a new scooter. After everything, after meeting Leo, I rode the Vespa to work, a small, tentative smile on my face. Maybe he was different. From his office window on the top floor, Nathan watched me ride through the company gates, and for the first time in a very long time, he smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. Just then, Chloe walked into his office, her own practiced smile firmly in place. "Good morning, Nathan. I was thinking..." She stopped, her eyes falling on an invoice lying on his desk. An invoice from a Vespa dealership made out to him, with a delivery address that she didn't recognize and a recipient's name that made her blood run cold. Sarah Miller. A cold knot of suspicion tightened in Chloe's stomach. Sarah Miller, the new girl from the warehouse. Why was Nathan buying her a scooter? A very expensive scooter at that. Her professional smile became brittle. She casually picked up the invoice, her eyes scanning the details, memorizing the phone number of the dealership. "What's this?" she asked, her voice a carefully constructed imitation of casual curiosity. "Buying a scooter, Nathan? I didn't know you rode." Nathan, who had just been watching me park my new Vespa, turned from the window, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes at her presence and at her nosiness. "It's nothing, just replacing something that was lost." Chloe's mind raced. Lost? What was lost? She knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that this was more than just a casual gift. This was a gesture, a significant one. She retreated to her own office, the invoice, a burning secret in her mind. As soon as she was alone, she dialed the number. "Good morning, Premium Motors. How can I help you?" "Hello," Chloe said, her voice smooth as silk. "I'm calling to confirm a purchase made this morning by a Mr. Nathan. I'm his personal assistant." "Ah, yes, the blue Vespa." He was quite insistent on getting it delivered first thing. "Bought it for a young lady named Sarah Miller." "Yes, that's the one," Chloe said, the confirmation hitting her like a physical blow. "Thank you for your help." She hung up the phone, her hand trembling slightly. It was true. A new employee, a woman who had been here for less than a week, and Nathan was already buying her extravagant gifts. The fear that had been a tiny seed in the back of her mind began to sprout, ugly and venomous. A third person. Someone was threatening her claim, and that person was Sarah. A new, cold determination settled over her. She needed to know more about this girl. She needed to understand the threat. Later that day, she found a reason to go down to the warehouse, a stack of inventory sheets in her hand. She found me checking a shipment, my back to her. My new Vespa was parked just outside, gleaming in the afternoon sun. "Sarah," she said, her voice sharp. I turned, my heart giving a small, nervous leap. "Chloe." "Hi. Nice scooter," she said, her eyes glinting with a sharp predatory light. "Is it new?" Yes," I said, feeling my cheeks flush. "It is. Did you buy it yourself?" she pressed, her gaze unwavering. "Or did someone buy it for you?" The question was a direct challenge, a shot across the bow. She knew. I didn't know how, but she knew. I met her gaze, a spark of defiance igniting within me. Someone was kind enough to replace my old car after it was misplaced, I said, my voice deliberately neutral. Chloe's smile was thin, humorless, misplaced. How does one misplace a car? She took a step closer, her voice dropping to a confidential whisper. "I saw the invoice on Nathan's desk, Sarah. I know he bought it for you. So, don't play innocent with me. Just tell me one thing. What's going on between you two?" "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, turning back to my work, my hands suddenly clumsy. "And even if I did, it would be none of your business." Chloe let out a short, sharp laugh. "Oh, you have spirit. I'll give you that. But let me give you a piece of advice. You're playing a game you can't win. Stay away from him." She turned and walked away, her heels clicking an angry rhythm on the concrete floor, leaving me standing there, my heart pounding, a cold sense of dread creeping over me. I had just made a very powerful enemy. That evening, Chloe didn't go home. She waited in her car, across the street from the factory gates. She was going to follow me. She was going to find out where I lived, what my life was like. She was going to find my weakness, and she was going to exploit it. I left work, blissfully unaware that I was being watched. I drove my new scooter through the familiar country roads, the evening air cool against my face. Chloe followed at a discreet distance in a taxi, her eyes fixed on my small figure ahead. As I turned onto my street, the familiar, homey sight of our small house coming into view, a strange feeling washed over Chloe, a chilling sense of déjà vu. She had been here before. She got out of the taxi, her heart starting to beat a little faster. She looked at the old oak tree in the front yard, at the sagging porch swing, at the faded blue shutters, and then she knew. This was Daniel's house. This was Aunt Clara's house. The place she had visited once, 6 years ago, with a sense of suffocating dread. The place she had returned to, a month later, to abandon her newborn son. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. She stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth, a wave of nausea washing over her. Sarah Miller. She was Daniel's sister. The coincidence was too great, too cruel to be believed. Of all the people in the world, Nathan had to fall for her. She fled, jumping back into the taxi, her mind a chaotic storm. She had the driver take her to a small, rundown bar on the edge of town, a place where no one would know her. She sat in a dark corner, ordering a drink she didn't touch, trying to process the impossible truth. My son, she thought. A sudden, sharp pang of something she hadn't felt in years. Guilt? Curiosity? Twisting in her gut. If he's still alive, he would be 6 years old now. Did they keep him? Did Aunt Clara and Daniel's sister? Did Sarah raise him? She had to know. She paid for her drink and walked back towards my street, her steps slow, hesitant. She found a small, discreet coffee shop across the street, a place that sold weak coffee and stale pastries, and sat by the window, her eyes fixed on my house. She asked the woman behind the counter, a middle-aged woman with a friendly, gossipy face, about the family across the street. "Oh, the Millers?" the woman said, happy to have a customer to talk to. "You mean Clara and her niece, Sarah?" "That's them," Chloe said, trying to sound casual. "I was a friend of the family years ago. I heard the girl, Sarah. I heard she had a baby." The woman leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Oh, yes, a real scandal, it was. Still in high school, she got herself pregnant. And then, boom, there was a baby, a little boy. He's 6 now. Father's nowhere to be seen, of course. She's raised that boy all on her own. A real shame. What happened to her brother, Daniel, died in a car crash, right around the same time the baby was born. Tragic." Chloe felt the air leave her lungs. It was true, all of it. Sarah had raised him. Sarah, who was just a child herself, had sacrificed her future, her reputation, to raise the son Chloe had thrown away. And then she saw him. The front door of my house opened, and a little boy came running out, a soccer ball tucked under his arm. He had dark, curly hair and a smile that lit up his whole face. He was beautiful, and he was, without a doubt, her son. He looked happy, healthy. He was laughing as he chased the ball across the lawn. Just then, I came out onto the porch, a glass of orange juice in my hand. "Leo, come get some juice before you get too hot." "Okay, Mommy," he called back, his voice bright and cheerful. He ran to me, and I knelt, ruffling his hair, my face alight with a love so pure, so profound. It was almost painful to watch. From across the street, Chloe watched the scene unfold, a silent, invisible ghost at the feast of her son's life. And for the first time in 6 long, selfish years, a tear rolled down her cheek. She was watching another woman be a mother to her child, a woman who called him son and whom he called mommy. And she, the woman who had given birth to him, was nothing, a stranger. The life she had so carefully constructed, the past she had so desperately tried to erase, had just come crashing back with a force that left her shattered, broken, and utterly, completely alone. Chloe stumbled back to the city in a daze. The image of me and Leo playing on the lawn burned into her memory. She locked herself in her room, the carefully constructed walls of her denial crumbling around her. For 6 years, she had successfully pushed the memory of her son into a dark, forgotten corner of her mind. She had told herself she had done the right thing, the only thing she could do to save her own future. But seeing him, healthy and happy, loved by another woman, it had dredged up a confusing, toxic cocktail of emotions. It wasn't love. It wasn't maternal instinct. It was a bitter, selfish cocktail of guilt, jealousy, and above all, fear. Her carefully crafted world was under threat. Sarah, Daniel's sister, was now working at her company. Nathan, the man she was determined to marry, was clearly infatuated with her. It was a ticking time bomb. If the truth came out that she had abandoned her child, that she had allowed her boyfriend's teenage sister to sacrifice her life to clean up her mess, she would lose everything. Nathan would be disgusted. His mother, a woman who prized reputation and propriety above all else, would never accept her. She would be ruined. Her primary emotion wasn't a mother's yearning for her lost child. It was a cornered animal's desperate instinct for self-preservation. Her mother found her later that night, curled up on her bed, her face swollen from crying. "Chloe, what is it? Why aren't you eating?" And it all came pouring out. "I saw him, Mom," she sobbed. "I saw my son." Her mother's face softened. "You did? How is he? Is he okay?" "He's fine," Chloe choked out. "He's beautiful." "And Daniel's sister, Sarah, she's the one who's been raising him. She's his mother now." "Oh, Chloe," her mother sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's time to make things right. We could go see him. I want to see my grandson." "No." Chloe shot up, her eyes wild with panic. "We can't. Don't you understand? If this gets out, I'm finished. Nathan will never marry me. His family will never accept me. We have to keep this a secret, just like before." "But Chloe, he's your son. He is a mistake I have to keep hidden," she insisted, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "And that's not even the worst of it. Sarah, Daniel's sister, she works at my company now." Her mother gasped. "What? How is that possible?" "I don't know, but she's there. And Nathan, he likes her. He's buying her gifts. I can't let her get in my way. I have to get rid of her. I have to get her fired." Her mother looked at her, her expression a mixture of pity and horror. "Chloe, you can't do that. That girl is raising your child. She's been doing your job for 6 years. You owe her everything. I owe her nothing." Chloe hissed, her face twisting with a venomous resentment. "Daniel was supposed to be responsible for that baby. He died, so his family has to be responsible. That's how it works. I'm not going to let her ruin my life now. I will find a way to get her out of that company and out of Nathan's life. Do you understand me?" Her mother, cowed by her daughter's fury, could only nod in silent, heartbroken agreement. Chloe had made her choice. She wasn't going to fight for her son. She was going to fight to keep him a secret. And she was going to destroy the woman who was a living, breathing testament to her greatest sin. Back at TCL, I was completely unaware of the storm brewing. My days settled into a new, surprisingly pleasant routine. The work was manageable. Jane was a wonderful friend. And Chloe kept her distance. There was a cold, simmering tension whenever we were in the same room. But she was too professional, too careful to make a direct move. My interactions with Nathan, however, became the highlight of my day. He would find excuses to come down to the warehouse, bringing me coffee, asking about my day. His presence was a warm, comforting light in the sterile environment of the factory. Jane, of course, noticed everything. "So," she said one afternoon, her eyes twinkling as Nathan walked away after delivering a fresh cup of hot chocolate to my workstation. "The big boss seems to have taken a special interest in you." I felt my cheeks flush. "It's not like that. We're just friends." "Friends?" she scoffed. "Honey, a man like that doesn't have friends who work in his warehouse. He has acquisitions, and he is trying to acquire you." "You're being ridiculous," I laughed, though my heart was doing a hopeful little flutter. The peace, however, was about to be shattered. One afternoon, Nathan was in his office, looking over some files, when the door burst open. A young man, tall and lean, with the same dark hair and handsome features as Nathan, but with a restless, rebellious energy, strode in. "Brother," he said, a wide grin spreading across his face. Nathan looked up, his face breaking into a rare, genuine smile. "Marcus, what are you doing here? I thought you weren't coming back until next month." Marcus Thorne, his younger brother, The boy from my past decided to surprise you, Marcus said, slinging a backpack onto the floor. Mom said you were running yourself ragged down here, so I came back early to help out. It's good to see you, little brother, Nathan said, standing up to give him a hug. You too. So, what's this I hear? Marcus said, flopping into a chair and grabbing a cup from the coffee machine. You're drinking a vanilla latte. Who are you? And what have you done with my bitter, black coffee, only brother? Nathan just smiled. People change, Marcus. Things change. Yeah, well, some things don't, Marcus said, his tone turning more serious. Listen, I'm heading over to Aunt Clara's. She wants us both to come for dinner tonight. It took me a second to process. Aunt Clara. Not my Aunt Clara. Their Aunt Clara. The woman who lived just a few miles down the road from us. The one I had known my whole life. The pieces clicked into place. Nathan's family was from here. This was his hometown. You should go, Nathan said. I've got too much work. You go see her, and buy her some flowers, and get something for the kids. Of course, Marcus said, a nostalgic smile on his face. Man, it's been 6 years. 6 years since I left this place. It feels like a lifetime. Remember when I was the terror of Northwood High, and you had to keep bailing me out of trouble? Nathan chuckled. How could I forget? Well, I'm off, Marcus said, heading for the door. Don't work too hard. I'll see you later. Marcus drove his motorcycle through the familiar country roads, a strange mix of nostalgia and melancholy washing over him. 6 years in Japan had changed him, but the landscape of his youth remained the same. As he passed the old wooden bridge over Miller's Creek, a memory surfaced, sharp and vivid. Sarah, the quiet, sad-eyed girl he had protected, the girl with the baby. He wondered what had happened to her. He assumed, with a pang of something he didn't want to name, that she was married by now, that the baby's father had come back just as she had said he would. He was so lost in thought that he almost didn't see her. A young woman on a bicycle, a little boy riding on the back. He recognized her immediately. Not Sarah. It was her best friend, Emily. He pulled his motorcycle over. Emily? Emily? Is that you? She stopped, her eyes widening in surprise. Marcus? Marcus Thorne? Oh my God, when did you get back? This morning, he said, a slow smile spreading across his face. It's good to see you. How have you been? Are you married? Is this your kid? He asked, gesturing to the little boy on the back of her bike. She laughed. Married? Please, I'm still single. And this little guy, she said, ruffling the boy's hair. This is Leo. He's Sarah's son. Marcus's smile faded. Sarah's son, he repeated, his voice quiet. Right, I remember. So, she's still here? She is, Emily said. She's a single mom. Still, Marcus's head snapped up. What do you mean, still? What about the dad? The guy who was working overseas? Emily frowned, confused. What guy? There was never any guy, Marcus. No one knows who the father is. She's raised Leo completely on her own for the past 6 years. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. She lied. The story she had told him, the story that had made him walk away, had been a lie. She's a single mom? He asked again, needing to hear it one more time. Yep. And get this, Emily said, her voice full of a cheerful irony. She's working at your family's company, TCL. He stared at her, a slow, dawning realization spreading across his face. He remembered the look on his brother's face, the uncharacteristic vanilla latte, the talk of things changing. TCL, he repeated. She's working at TCL. Yep, I just dropped Leo off with her for lunch. Right, he said, a strange, excited energy buzzing through him. Well, it was great to see you, Emily. We should catch up soon. He revved his engine and sped off, his mind racing. She's a single mom, the words echoed in his head, a beautiful, hopeful refrain. And she works for my brother. He grinned. This was going to be interesting. Very, very interesting. As I was getting ready to leave work that afternoon, Nathan came down to the warehouse. "Sarah," he said, his voice a low, intimate rumble that did strange things to my insides. "I'm heading over to my aunt's house for dinner. It's near your place. Can I give you a ride?" "Oh, no, I couldn't," I said, a little flustered. "I have my scooter. I need it to get to work tomorrow. I can pick you up in the morning," he offered, his eyes hopeful. "It's really okay," I said, trying to maintain a professional boundary that was becoming increasingly blurry. "I can't keep imposing on you, sir, Nathan," he corrected gently. "And it's not an imposition. Besides," he added, a playful glint in his eye, "my aunt lives in this town. This is my hometown." "It is?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "I had no idea." "It is," he confirmed. "So, how about this? I'll stop by your place after dinner. We can talk tonight." "Yes, my brother's back in town, so he can keep my aunt company. I'll be free." "You have a brother?" The pieces were starting to connect in my head. "Yes, his name is Marcus. He just got back from Japan today. He'll be taking over management here, so I can go back to the city." "Marcus," I said, the name feeling familiar on my tongue. "That name sounds familiar." "He's your age," Nathan said, a curious expression on his face. "He went to Northwood High. He was a bit of a troublemaker." And then it hit me, like a bolt of lightning. Marcus Thorne, the boy from the bridge, the boy who had been my only friend. He was Nathan's brother. The world, it seemed, was not just small, it was microscopic. I think I knew him," I said, my voice barely a whisper. He was very kind to me. A flicker of something, jealousy, surprise, crossed Nathan's face. Well, that's good to know." He cleared his throat, a strange tension suddenly filling the air between us. "Anyway, I'll see you tonight." He turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, my mind reeling from this new, impossible connection. I rode home, my thoughts a tangled mess. Marcus was back, after 6 years, and he was my new boss's brother. I couldn't help but smile. The memory of his quiet, gruff kindness was a warm spot in a past that was mostly cold and bleak. I wondered if he had changed. I wondered if he even remembered me. The next morning, Marcus was up early, a restless energy buzzing through him. He went to his brother's room and shook him awake. "Nathan, get up. It's 8 o'clock. Nathan shot up in bed, blinking sleepily. "What? 8 already?" He grabbed his phone, then glared at his brother, who was laughing uncontrollably. "It was only 6 a.m. "You little punk," Nathan grumbled, throwing a pillow at him. "Why'd you do that?" "Because you're getting soft," Marcus grinned. "Sleeping in until 6. And you need to get a move on if you want to get to the factory on time." "Are you starting today?" Nathan asked, stretching. "I thought you were taking a few days off." "No way. I've got to start making money so I can get a wife," Marcus said, his tone light, but his eyes were serious. "If you don't hurry up and get married, I'm going to beat you to it." "Oh yeah? And who's the lucky lady?" "I don't have one yet," Marcus said, his grin widening. "But I have a prospect." "A prospect, huh?" "Well, so do I. Marcus's grin faded slightly. You do? Who is she? I'm pursuing someone, Nathan said, a rare, soft smile on his face. But I haven't quite landed her yet. I could use some advice. Advice from me? Marcus scoffed. You're asking the master of failed relationships for dating tips? That's rich. Just get out of here and let me get dressed, Nathan said, laughing. Fine, but just so you know, Marcus said, pausing at the door, I'm going to be the new vice president. I'll expect a formal announcement, whatever you say, little brother. And hey, Marcus added, a serious note returning to his voice. Don't screw it up with your prospect. You don't want her to get away. I won't, Nathan said, his smile fading as a thoughtful expression took its place. I won't. The news of a new vice president, and the fact that he was the CEO's handsome, single younger brother, spread through the factory like wildfire. Jane was practically vibrating with excitement when she came back from the morning meeting. You are not going to believe this, she said, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. The new VP is a certified hottie, just as handsome as his brother. It's like the genetic lottery exploded in that family. And this affects us how? I asked, laughing at her enthusiasm. Are you kidding me? She said, her eyes wide. You're not interested in a handsome, rich, powerful man? Nope, handsome doesn't pay the bills, I said, repeating a mantra that had gotten me through many lonely nights. But a rich husband does, she insisted. He could provide for you for the rest of your life. You're young, you're beautiful. You shouldn't be wasting your life in a warehouse. I just shook my head, a sad smile on my face. That's not my life, Jane. You know that. That kind of perfect fairy tale ending. It's not for people like me. Oh, honey, she said, her voice softening. Don't say that. Just then, Nathan appeared at the end of the aisle. He was holding a cup, a bubble tea. Here, he said, handing it to me. I was passing by a shop and thought of you. I took it, my cheeks flushing. Thank you, sir. Nathan, he corrected gently. And why weren't you at the meeting this morning? I was busy with inventory, I stammered. Jane filled me in. I see. Well, just so you know, I'll only be here 2 days a week from now on. My brother, Marcus, will be in charge. Okay, I said, a strange pang of disappointment hitting me. Are you going to miss me? He asked, his voice low, his eyes searching mine. I was saved from answering by a call coming through on his phone. He glanced at it, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face, and silenced it. I'm not gone yet, he said, his gaze intense. And I'm not going to be a stranger. In fact, I'd like to take you to dinner tonight. Tonight? A farewell dinner, he said, though his eyes told a different story. Before I officially hand over the reins, I'll pick you up at 7. And before I could protest, before I could invent an excuse, he was gone, leaving me with a rapidly melting bubble tea and a heart that was beating way too fast. Jane, who had been shamelessly eavesdropping from a few feet away, rushed over, her face alight with excitement. Oh, my God, she whispered. Did you hear that? Did you see the way he looks at you? It's happening, Sarah. It's really happening. It's just dinner, Jane, I said, trying to convince myself as much as her. It's never just dinner with a man like that, she said, her voice full of a wisdom I couldn't deny. You, my friend, are in for a very interesting night. Later that afternoon, a message came through from the new VP's office. He wanted to see me. My heart gave a nervous flutter. Marcus. I walked up to the second floor, to the office next to Nathan's, and knocked on the door. Come in. I pushed the door open and saw him sitting behind the desk. He was older, of course, The rebellious energy of his youth had been replaced by a quiet, confident stillness. But his eyes were the same, dark, intense, and full of a sad, old wisdom. "Sarah," he said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "It's been a long time." "Marcus," I said, a genuine, unbidden smile spreading across my face. It felt strange to see him here, in this sterile corporate environment, wearing a crisp, button-down shirt instead of his usual worn-out leather jacket. "I heard you were back." "Yeah," he said, standing up and walking around the desk. "Got back yesterday." He stopped in front of me, his presence filling the small office. "You look good, Sarah, really good." "So do you," I said, feeling a warmth spread through my chest, less angry. He laughed, a real, genuine sound that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Yeah, well, 6 years in Japan will do that to you. It's good to see you. I was thinking about you on the drive over here yesterday, remembering the old days." "Me too," I admitted. "I was thinking about the bridge. You were a real hero that day." "Nah," he said, shaking his head. "Just a guy who hates bullies." He paused, his gaze softening. "I'm sorry I didn't stay in touch. I thought you had your own life, your own family to build. I didn't want to get in the way." The old lie, the one that had pushed him away, rose up in my throat, tasting like poison. "It's okay. You had your own life to live. So, your son, Leo, right?" Emily told me. "He's in 1st grade now?" "He is," I said, a proud smile touching my lips. "He's amazing, Marcus. So smart and funny. I'd like to meet him sometime," he said, his voice quiet, properly. "I'd like that too. You should come over for dinner sometime. I can make you that." "What was it? That ridiculously spicy chili you used to love?" His face lit up. "You remember that? How could I forget? You ate a whole pot by yourself." We stood there for a moment, bathed in the warm glow of shared memory, the 6 years of silence melting away as if they had never been. "Well," he said, clearing his throat, a hint of his old shyness returning. "I should let you get back to work, but can I come over this weekend? On Sunday?" "Of course," I said. "I'll be there." I left his office with a feeling of lightness I hadn't experienced in years. It felt like a piece of my past, a good piece, had finally come home. That night, Nathan's plans for a quiet, romantic farewell dinner were thwarted by his younger brother, Marcus, claiming he wanted to properly meet the woman who had turned his brother into a vanilla latte drinker, insisted on tagging along. The 3 of us sat at a small, awkward table in a local restaurant. The tension between the 2 brothers was a palpable thing, a thick, unspoken rivalry that crackled in the air. They were both polite, both charming, but they were like 2 lions circling the same prize, and I was the prize. After dinner, Nathan insisted on driving me home, leaving Marcus to find his own way back. When we arrived at my house, he walked me to the door, a determined look on his face. "So," he said, his voice low, "my brother, you 2 seem to have a lot of history." "We were friends," I said simply, "a long time ago. He was there for me when no one else was." "I see," he said, his jaw tightening slightly. He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for something. "Sarah, I know this is fast, and I know your life is complicated, but I have to be honest with you. I like you. A lot, more than I've liked anyone in a very long time." My heart skipped a beat, and, he continued, his eyes searching mine, "I want a chance, a real chance. To get to know you, to get to know Leo. I want to be a part of your life. If you'll let me. I was speechless. A man like him, a man who could have any woman he wanted, was choosing me, the single mother with a mountain of baggage and a past full of secrets. Before I could find the words to respond, the front door opened, and Leo, who was supposed to be in bed, came running out, a wide grin on his face. "Mommy, Uncle Marcus is here." And there he was, Marcus, standing on my porch, a large, brightly wrapped toy in his hands. He had completely bypassed our Sunday dinner plans and come straight here. Nathan's face darkened. The two brothers stood on my porch, staring each other down, the unspoken challenge hanging heavy in the air between them. And I stood between them, my heart a confused, chaotic mess, feeling like I was being pulled in two different directions at once. My past, in the form of the quiet, steadfast boy who had saved me, and my potential future in the form of the powerful, charismatic man who had, against all odds, seen something in me worth pursuing. My life, which had been so simple, so monotonous for so long, had just become incredibly, terrifyingly complicated. The weekend was a blur of unspoken competition. Marcus came over on Sunday, as promised, and spent the entire day with Leo. He taught him how to throw a football, helped him build a ridiculously complex Lego spaceship, and listened with rapt attention as Leo explained the intricate plot of his favorite cartoon. He wasn't just being polite. He was genuinely, effortlessly wonderful with my son. He slid into the role of a father figure so naturally it was almost scary. Nathan, not to be outdone, showed up that evening with a pizza the size of a manhole cover and 2 bags full of the latest video games. He was less natural with Leo, a little more awkward, but his effort was sincere, and Leo, who had never had this much male attention in his entire life, was in heaven. I watched them both, my heart a tangled knot of conflicting emotions. Marcus was easy, familiar, a comfortable link to a past I thought I had lost. He felt like home. Nathan was exciting, new, a promise of a future I had never dared to dream of. He felt like an adventure. The following week at work was a minefield of quiet attentions. Nathan would send bubble tea to my workstation. An hour later, a latte would arrive from Marcus. Jane was having the time of her life, watching the drama unfold, offering a running commentary on which brother was winning. I just felt overwhelmed. One afternoon, Marcus called me up to his office. He had a small, velvet box in his hand. I got you something, he said, his voice a little hesitant. He opened the box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace, a single, tiny star hanging from the chain. It was beautiful. "Marcus, I can't accept this," I said, though my heart was fluttering. "Why not?" he asked, his eyes pleading. "It's just a gift from a friend. It's more than that, and you know it." "Okay," he said, taking a deep breath. "You're right, it is more than that." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a low, intense whisper. "Sarah, I've liked you since we were kids. I was just too stupid and scared to do anything about it. When I came back and found out you were still single, it felt like a second chance, a chance to fix the biggest mistake of my life." He took the necklace out of the box. "Please," he said, his voice thick with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. "Let me do this." Before I could protest, he was behind me, his fingers brushing against the nape of my neck as he fastened the clasp. His touch was electric, sending a shiver down my spine. He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. "Sarah, let's try. Let's be together." Just then, the door opened. and a woman from HR walked in, a stack of files in her hand. The spell was broken. I took a step back, my hand flying to the necklace. Marcus, Don't take it off, he whispered, his eyes begging me. Please. The HR woman left, and I turned to face him, my heart aching. Marcus, I can't. Why not? Because I'm not ready. My life it's Leo. That's all I have room for. But he needs a father, Sarah, he said, his voice gentle. And I want to be that for him. I want to be that for both of you. I'm sorry, I said, the words feeling like stones in my mouth. I can't. I turned and fled from his office, the cold silver star on my chest feeling impossibly heavy, like the weight of a decision I wasn't ready to make. I stumbled back to the warehouse, my mind a chaotic whirlwind. Jane, of course, noticed the new, gleaming addition to my attire immediately. Ooh, Lala, she exclaimed, her eyes wide. A new necklace. Don't tell me. A gift from the VP. I couldn't lie. I just nodded, sinking onto a nearby stool, my head in my hands. I knew it, she squealed, clapping her hands together. He's making his move. Oh, this is getting good. It's like a real-life soap opera. The handsome CEO versus the brooding, mysterious VP, fighting for the love of the beautiful, hardworking warehouse girl. I'm telling you, Sarah, this is going to be epic. It's not epic, Jane, I groaned. It's a mess, a huge, complicated mess. It's romance, she insisted. You have to choose one of them. My money's on the CEO. He's more mature. The VP is still a kid, really. All that rebellious energy. I'm not choosing anyone, I said, my voice firm. I'm not in a position to choose anything. I have a son to think about, that's it. But even as I said the words, my heart was a traitor, fluttering with a confused mix of hope and fear. While I was grappling with my own romantic turmoil, Chloe was facing a much more definitive and brutal rejection. She had arranged a business dinner with a potential client, a perfect excuse to get Nathan alone. After the client had left, as they sat in the quiet, elegant restaurant, she decided to make her final, desperate move. Nathan, she said, her voice a low, seductive purr. I've been thinking about us. Chloe, he started, a weary note in his voice, but she cut him off. No, let me finish, she said, her hand reaching across the table to cover his. I know I've been patient. I know I've waited, but I can't wait anymore. I love you. I want to be with you, to take care of you, to be your wife. Just give me a chance. That's all I'm asking for. Nathan slowly, deliberately, pulled his hand out from under hers. He looked at her, his expression not angry, not cruel, but simply, devastatingly, final. I can't do that, Chloe. Why not? She whispered, her carefully constructed composure beginning to crumble. Because I don't love you, he said, the words simple, direct, and utterly unambiguous. I have told you this before. I consider you a friend, a colleague, nothing more. You need to accept that and move on. Find someone who can give you what you want, because it's not me. But I can't, she stammered, her eyes filling with tears. I can't just forget about you. I love you. He sighed, a deep, heavy sound of a man at the end of his rope. I'm sorry, Chloe, but I'm in love with someone else. The words hit her like a physical blow. Who? She asked, her voice a strangled whisper, though she already knew the answer. Who is it? That's my private business. It's her, isn't it? She pressed, her voice rising with a hysterical edge. It's that warehouse girl. It's Sarah. Nathan didn't deny it. He just met her gaze, his own expression unyielding. Yes, he said, his voice quiet but firm. It is. The confession shattered what little was left of her control. She had been by his side for 3 years, patiently, devotedly, and she had lost him. To a girl he had known for less than 2 months, a girl with no money, no connections, and a child from a teenage mistake. The injustice of it was a bitter, burning acid in her gut. But you know about her, right? Chloe said, her voice turning venomous, her last desperate attempt to wound him, to discredit me. You know she has a son? That she got pregnant in high school? A girl with no morals, no standards. How can you choose someone like that over me? Nathan's face hardened. He placed his napkin on the table, his movements sharp, precise. What you call no morals, he said, his voice dangerously low. I call strength. She raised a child on her own, without any help, without any support. She has more character, more integrity in her little finger than you could ever hope to have. And you have no right to judge her. You don't know the first thing about her life. He stood up. I'm leaving. This conversation is over. Nathan, wait, she cried. But he was already walking away, leaving her alone at the table, her face a mask of tear-streaked fury and humiliation. The next day, Chloe did something she knew would be unforgivable. She went to see Nathan's mother. She arrived at the sprawling, elegant house in the city with a basket of expensive, exotic fruit and a story that was carefully crafted to inflict the maximum amount of damage. She found Mrs. Mai, a formidable woman with a reputation for being a stickler for tradition and social standing, arranging flowers in her sun-drenched living room. Chloe, my dear, Mrs. Mai said, her face lighting up. What a lovely surprise. I was just in the neighborhood, Chloe lied smoothly. I wanted to see how you were. They made small talk for a few minutes, and then Chloe, with a masterful performance of reluctant sorrow, delivered her poisoned dart. Auntie, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I don't know if I should be telling you this, but I'm so worried about Nathan. Mrs. Mai's smile faded, worried. Why? What's wrong? He's involved with someone. A new employee at the factory. Mrs. Mai's perfectly plucked eyebrows rose. Involved? But I thought you and he ended things with me, Chloe said, squeezing out a single, perfect tear. For her, Auntie, she's not right for him. She's a warehouse worker. She has no education, no family to speak of. She's an orphan, living with her aunt. A warehouse worker? Mrs. Mai repeated, her voice dripping with disdain. And that's not all, Chloe continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. She's a single mother. She has a 6-year-old son. She got pregnant when she was still in high school. The color drained from Mrs. Mai's face. A single mother with a bastard child. Are you serious? I'm afraid so, Chloe said, shaking her head sadly. I can't bear to see him throw his life away on someone so unsuitable, someone with such a questionable moral character. The seed of doubt and disgust was planted. Chloe knew Mrs. Mai's standards for a daughter-in-law were impossibly high. She had to be well-educated, from a good family, and, above all, her reputation had to be spotless. I failed on all 3 counts. Mrs. Mai's face was a mask of cold fury. Don't you worry, my dear, she said, her voice like ice. I will handle this. This girl will not be a part of my family. I will make sure of it. Chloe left the house with a sense of grim satisfaction. The first part of her plan was complete. She had turned Nathan's most powerful ally against me. Now, all she had to do was wait for the explosion, and she knew, with a certainty that chilled her own blood, that it would be devastating. That evening, the storm Chloe had seeded broke with a predictable fury. Mrs. Mai summoned Nathan to the living room the moment he walked in the door. The air was thick with a tense, disapproving silence. "Nathan," she began, her voice dangerously calm. "We need to talk about this." A woman, Nathan, who knew his mother better than anyone, braced himself. He knew this was coming. "Chloe paid you a visit, I assume." "That is irrelevant," she snapped. "What is relevant is your appalling lack of judgment. A warehouse worker, Nathan, an orphan with no family, no breeding, and a bastard child. Is this some kind of joke?" "Her name is Sarah," he said, his own voice hardening. "And she is not a joke. I care about her." "Care about her?" Mrs. Mai scoffed, her voice rising. "This is not about caring. This is about our family, our reputation. What will people say? That my eldest son, the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, has taken up with some common factory girl who couldn't even keep her legs closed in high school." "That's enough, Mother," Nathan said, his voice a low, warning growl. "You will not speak about her that way." "I will speak about her any way I please," she shot back. "I am your mother, and I will not stand by and watch you ruin your life. I forbid you to see her again. It's over." Nathan stood up, his face a mask of cold resolve. "No," he said, his voice quiet but unyielding. "It's not. I'm not a child you can order around. I will see whomever I please, and I am going to be with Sarah. I intend to ask her to be my wife, and you will either accept that, or you will risk losing your son." The threat hung in the air, audacious and shocking. Mrs. Mai stared at him, her mouth agape, for once in her life rendered completely speechless. "I will give you some time to think about it," he said, his voice softening slightly. "When I'm officially with her, I will bring her here to meet you properly. I hope by then you'll have come to your senses." He turned and walked out of the room, leaving his mother standing amidst the ruins of her authority, her face a mixture of fury, disbelief, and a dawning, terrifying fear that she was losing control. Later that evening, still reeling from her confrontation with Nathan, she found Marcus getting ready to go out. He was whistling, a cheerful, carefree sound that grated on her already frayed nerves. "And where are you going in such a good mood?" she asked, her tone sharp. "Just going to see a friend, Mom," he said, pulling on his jacket. He turned, a wide, hopeful grin on his face. "Hey, Mom, how would you feel about having a daughter-in-law?" Mrs. Mai felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. "Not him too. You have a girlfriend?" "Not yet," he said, his grin widening, "but I'm working on it. Your stubborn younger son is finally in love." "With whom?" she asked, her voice a strained whisper, already dreading the answer. "You remember her. Sarah, the girl from down the street, Aunt Clara's niece. She used to come over sometimes. When we were kids, the room seemed to spin." "Sarah?" she repeated, the name tasting like ash in her mouth. "The same Sarah your brother is." "Yeah, I know," he said, his cheerfulness dimming slightly. "It's complicated, but I've liked her for years, Mom. Since before I left for Japan, when I came back and found out she was still here, still single. It felt like a sign. I know she has a son, and I know her life has been hard, but that doesn't matter to me. I love her, and I want to marry her." It was too much. The same woman, Both of her sons, her handsome, successful, brilliant sons, were in love with the same damaged, unsuitable girl. It was a nightmare, a cruel, incomprehensible joke. "Mother, are you okay?" Marcus asked, his voice full of a sudden concern as he saw the color drain from her face. I have a headache," she stammered, pressing a hand to her temple. My old headache is coming back. I need to lie down. Let me take you to the doctor." No, she insisted, waving him away. I just need to rest." She stumbled back to her room, her mind a chaotic maelstrom. A single mother, a 6-year-old son, working at the same company. A cold, chilling thought began to form in the back of her mind. Could it be? Is it possible that the woman Marcus likes and the woman Nathan likes are one and the same? The pieces clicked into place with a horrifying certainty. Of course they were. It was the only explanation that made sense. She collapsed onto her bed, the sheer, tragic absurdity of the situation threatening to overwhelm her. Her 2 sons, her pride and joy, had become rivals for the love of a woman she considered to be utterly, completely, and irrevocably beneath them. The next day, Mrs. Mai did something she hadn't done in years. She drove herself down to the country, but she didn't go to see her sons. She went on a fact-finding mission. She needed to see this girl, this Sarah, for herself. She needed to understand the power she held over her sons. Armed with the information Chloe had given her, she found my house easily. She parked her luxury sedan at the end of our gravel driveway, a stark and alien presence in our humble, rural world. I was just walking home from the school bus stop with Leo when I saw her, a wealthy, impeccably dressed older woman, standing by our front gate, looking at our small, slightly ramshackle house with an expression of undisguised disdain. "Can I help you?" I asked, my hand instinctively tightening on Leo's shoulder. Her cold, appraising eyes swept over me, from my worn-out jeans to my second-hand t-shirt. "You must be Sarah," she said, her voice as crisp and cold as a winter morning. "Yes," I said, a sense of unease creeping over me. "And you are?" "I am Nathan's mother," she announced, the words a declaration of war. My heart sank. This was it, the confrontation I had been dreading. "Please," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Come inside." She swept into our small, clean living room, her eyes missing nothing: the worn-out sofa, the patched-up curtains, the faded family photographs on the wall. Her gaze landed on Leo, who was hiding shyly behind my legs. "Is this your son?" she asked, her tone making the words sound like an accusation. "Yes, this is Leo. And you're not married." It wasn't a question, it was a statement of fact, a judgment. "No, so where's the father?" I squared my shoulders, the familiar lie coming to my lips out of pure, defensive instinct. He's working overseas." "I see," she said, a small, cruel smile playing on her lips. "Raising a child alone must be very difficult. Very expensive. I imagine that's why you've targeted my son." The accusation was so blunt, so unexpected, it took my breath away. "Targeted him? I don't know what you mean." "Oh, please," she said, waving a dismissive hand. "Let's not play games. You're a clever girl, I'll give you that. You saw an opportunity, and you took it. So, let's get straight to the point. How much do you want?" She opened her designer handbag and pulled out a stack of cash so thick it was almost comical. She placed it on our small, rickety coffee table. $100,000, she said. "Is that enough? Take the money, raise your child, and stay away from my son, from both of my sons." I stared at the money, then back at her, a slow, burning anger starting to build in my chest. I think, I said, my voice dangerously quiet, you have misunderstood the situation completely. I don't want your money, and I am not targeting anyone. Oh, really? She sneered. Don't be a fool, a girl like you, a family like ours. It's a fantasy. It will never happen. You are not good enough for my sons. So, take the money. It's the best deal you're going to get. The insult, the sheer, unadulterated arrogance of it, snapped something inside me. I don't want your money, I repeated, my voice now as cold as hers. And as for your sons, I have no interest in them. Now, I think it's time for you to leave. She looked at me, genuinely shocked. She was not a woman who was used to being defied. How dare you? How dare you? I shot back, my voice rising. How dare you come into my home, insult me, insult my family, and try to buy me off like I'm some piece of trash you can just throw away. You know nothing about me, about my life. So you can take your money and your judgment, and you can get out of my house. I had never spoken to an adult like that in my entire life. But her cruelty, her condescension, had pushed me past my breaking point. She stood there for a moment, her face a mask of cold fury. Then, without another word, she turned and swept out of the house. I followed her, the stack of cash in my hand. As she opened her car door, I leaned in. You forgot this, I said, and I dropped the money onto the plush leather of her passenger seat. Have a nice day. I turned and walked back into my house, my body trembling with a mixture of rage and a strange, exhilarating sense of empowerment. I had stood up for myself. I had stood up for my son, and in doing so, I had just declared war on a very, very powerful woman. Mrs. Mai drove away from my house in a blind fury. She had been dismissed, defied, by a girl she considered to be nothing more than a piece of provincial trash. The audacity of it was galling. She drove for a few miles, then pulled over to the side of the road, her hands gripping the steering wheel, her knuckles white. She had to calm down, had to think. This girl was more formidable than she had anticipated. Just as she was composing herself, she saw a motorcycle approaching in her rearview mirror. It was Marcus. He pulled up alongside her car, a cheerful grin on his face. Mom, what are you doing out here? He asked, his voice full of a surprise that quickly turned to suspicion as he recognized the road. Wait, were you just at Sarah's house? Her silence was all the confirmation he needed. His grin vanished, replaced by a look of dawning horror. Mom, no. What did you do? I did what I had to do, she said, her voice a low, defensive growl. I was protecting this family, protecting you and your brother from making a catastrophic mistake. By insulting the woman I love? He shot back, his voice rising with a furious disbelief. By trying to buy her off like she's some kind of prostitute? Is that how you protect us? You don't understand, she insisted. She is not right for either of you. She will ruin our family. The only person ruining this family right now is you, he yelled, slamming his fist on her car. You and your snobbery and your obsession with what other people think. I can't believe you did this. He turned and sped off, leaving her alone on the side of the road, the echo of his angry words ringing in her ears. That night, the family home was a war zone. Mrs. Mai summoned both her sons to the living room for a final, definitive showdown. I have made my decision, she announced, her voice as cold and hard as marble. I forbid both of you from ever seeing that girl again. If you defy me, you can consider yourselves disowned. You will not get another penny from this family, and you will be cut out of my life permanently. The ultimatum, brutal and absolute, hung in the air between them. Nathan, ever the pragmatist, was the first to speak. "Mother, this is ridiculous. You can't be serious." "I have never been more serious in my life," she said, her eyes glinting with a fanatical light. "You will choose. It is either her or this family." Nathan looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Nathan. The shared look was one of despair, of frustration, but also of a strange, unspoken solidarity. Later that night, long after their mother had retreated to her room, the two brothers sat in the dark, a bottle of expensive whiskey between them. "So," Nathan said, his voice a low, weary rumble, "what do we do now?" Marcus took a long swallow of whiskey, the fiery liquid doing little to warm the cold knot of despair in his gut. "I don't know," he said, his voice thick with a raw, helpless anger. "I've never seen her like this. She's unhinged." "She's scared," Nathan corrected, his voice surprisingly gentle. "She's scared of losing control, of losing us, and we both went after the one woman in the world she would never, ever approve of." They were silent for a long time, the only sound the clinking of ice in their glasses. "I've loved her since we were kids, you know," Marcus said, his voice barely a whisper. "I was just too young, too stupid to see it. And then I left. And when I came back, you were already there." Nathan looked at his younger brother, at the raw pain in his eyes, and his heart ached. "And he said, his own voice heavy with a regret that was almost palpable, "I met her 2 months ago, and I fell for her harder and faster than I've ever fallen for anyone in my life. It's a hell of a mess." "So, what's the plan?" Marcus asked, his voice regaining a sliver of its usual defiant edge. "We're not just going to roll over and let Mom win, are we?" "No," Nathan said, his voice firm. "We're not, but we can't fight her. Not like this. It'll tear the family apart." He paused, a thoughtful, strategic glint in his eye. "We need to let Sarah decide." Marcus looked at him, confused. "Decide what?" "Decide who she wants," Nathan said simply. "We'll both pursue her, openly and honestly. And whoever she chooses, the other one backs off, gracefully. No hard feelings, no resentment. We let her make the choice, and we respect it. And once she's chosen one of us, we present a united front to Mother. She can't fight both of us, not if we're together." The plan was audacious, logical, and utterly, heartbreakingly insane. But it was the only path forward that didn't end in a scorched earth family war. Marcus looked at his brother, at the man who had been his rival for the past few weeks, and saw, for the first time, not an opponent, but an ally. "Okay," he said, extending his glass, "to the world's most messed up truce." Nathan clinked his glass against his brother's. "To Sarah," he said, his voice a low, hopeful whisper. The next morning, I didn't go to work. The confrontation with Mrs. Mai had left a bitter taste in my mouth. I couldn't face them. I couldn't face the drama, the conflict, the impossible choice that was being laid at my feet. So I ran. I wrote a short, formal resignation letter, left it on my workstation, and disappeared. I changed my phone number. I took Leo and went to stay with Emily for a few days, hiding from a world that had suddenly become too loud, too complicated. Nathan and Marcus, when they discovered I was gone, were frantic. They called my old number, but it was disconnected. They drove to my house, but Aunt Clara, loyal to me to the end, told them she didn't know where I was. I spent the next few days in a fog, trying to figure out my next move. I knew I couldn't go back to TCL. I had to find a new job, a new life, away from the intoxicating, destructive orbit of the Thorne brothers. One afternoon, as I was walking through town with a stack of resumes, I ran into someone from my past, a man named Luan. He had been my brother Daniel's best friend in high school. "Sarah?" he said, his eyes widening in surprise. "Sarah Miller? Is that really you?" "Luan," I said, a genuine smile spreading across my face for the first time in days. "Wow, it's been, 6 years?" "At least," he said, his own grin wide and warm. "Look at you, all grown up. What are you doing with a stack of resumes?" "I thought you were working out at that new electronics factory." I just quit," I said, a little embarrassed. "I'm looking for something new." "Well, you can stop looking," he said, his expression turning serious. "You know, before your brother passed, he made me promise I'd look out for you, that if you ever needed a job, I'd help you out. I just opened my own logistics company right here in town. I need a good office manager. The job is yours, if you want it." The offer, so simple, so kind, coming out of the blue like a life raft in a stormy sea, was so overwhelming it brought tears to my eyes. "Luan, I don't know what to say. I only graduated high school. I don't care about that," he said, his voice gentle. "I care about keeping a promise to my best friend. The job is yours, Sarah. Please, let me do this for him." "Okay," I whispered, the word thick with unshed tears. "Okay, thank you." We stood there for a moment, a shared, silent grief for Daniel hanging in the air between us. "So," he said, his voice turning gentle, "how is she? Chloe, and the baby, are they doing okay?" And just like that, the dam I had built around my heart for 6 long years finally broke. The whole sordid, heartbreaking story came pouring out of me, about Chloe's abandonment, about Leo, about the lies, the sacrifices, the loneliness. He listened, his face a mask of growing horror and disbelief. She just left him?" he asked, his voice a strangled whisper. "Chloe just abandoned her own son." "Yes," I sobbed. "And you never even met her. You don't know what she looks like." "No," I said, shaking my head. "I've never even seen a picture." A strange, determined look came over his face. He pulled out his phone, his thumbs flying across the screen. "Wait a minute," he said, his voice a low growl. I think I still have one." He scrolled through years of old photos, and then he stopped. "Here," he said, his voice tight with a cold fury. "This was from my 21st birthday party. 6 years ago." He turned the phone towards me, and I saw her. It was a picture of Daniel, his arms slung around a beautiful, smiling, pregnant woman, and my world, for the second time in as many months, came to a complete and utter standstill, because the woman in the picture, my long-lost, phantom sister-in-law, the mother of my son, was Chloe, the production manager from TCL. The world tilted on its axis. The bustling street around me faded into a dull, meaningless roar. All I could see was the smiling face on the phone screen. Chloe, my boss, the woman who had given me polite, professional smiles in the hallways, the woman who had threatened me in the warehouse, the woman who had been living and working less than 100 feet away from me for weeks, knowing. She must have known. A white-hot, blinding rage, unlike anything I had ever felt before, surged through me. It was a rage born of 6 years of sacrifice, of lies, of loneliness, 6 years of bearing the shame of her sin. Sarah, are you okay?" Luan's voice was a distant echo. "She knew," I whispered, my voice a low, trembling growl. "She's been there. all this time, and she knew. She knew Leo was there, right down the road, and she never once came to see him. The sheer, monstrous coldness of it was incomprehensible. "She's at the factory now?" Luan asked, his own face a mask of cold fury. "Yes," I said, a new, terrible resolve hardening in my eyes. "And I'm going to go see her." "I'm coming with you," he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "She's not going to get away with this." Back at TCL, Chloe was on top of the world. I was gone. The threat had been neutralized. She had just gotten off the phone with Mrs. Mai, who had smugly informed her that her little intervention had worked. Sarah Miller had resigned. Chloe felt a wave of triumphant relief wash over her. It was over. Her secret was safe. Just then, the security guard at the front gate called her office. "Miss Chloe, there are a couple of people here to see you." A Miss Sarah Miller. Chloe's blood ran cold. "She's back. I'll be right down," she said, her voice a calm, cool facade that belied the sudden, frantic pounding of her heart. She walked to the front gate, her mind racing. What did she want? Money? To make a scene? Chloe prepared herself for a fight. She saw me standing there, my face pale, my eyes blazing with an intensity that made her take an involuntary step back. "Sarah," she said, her voice dripping with a condescending sweetness. "I thought you'd resigned. What are you doing here?" I didn't answer. I just walked up to her, and with all the force of 6 years of pent-up pain and rage, I slapped her across the face. The sound of the slap echoed in the quiet afternoon air. Chloe stumbled back, her hand flying to her cheek, her face a mask of shocked disbelief. "How dare you!" she shrieked. "You're fired. You are the worst mother on the face of this planet," I said, my voice shaking with a fury that was almost primal. "How could you, Chloe? How could you just leave him? He was your son, your own flesh and blood. Do you have any idea what you did to him? To me?" Chloe's face went white. She opened her mouth to deny it, to lie, but just then, Luan stepped out from behind me. "Hello, Chloe," he said, his voice as cold as ice. "It's been a long time." The fight went out of her. Seeing Luan, a ghost from the past she thought she had buried, she knew the game was up. There were no more lies, no more denials. She was caught. She started to babble, her carefully constructed composure shattering into a million pieces. "Please," she whispered, her eyes darting around nervously, terrified of the scene we were creating. "Not here. Let's go somewhere else. I'll come to your house tonight. After work. We can talk then. Please, just go." She was so focused on trying to manage the situation, to contain the fallout, that she didn't see him. Nathan, who had seen the commotion at the front gate from his office window, came jogging towards us, his face a mask of concern. "Sarah," he called out, "I've been trying to call you. Why did you quit? What's going on?" Chloe's world imploded. Nathan, here, now. It was her worst nightmare come to life, but Nathan barely glanced at her. His eyes were only for me. "Sarah, talk to me. What's wrong?" Luan, ever the calm, steady presence, stepped forward. "I think," he said, his eyes meeting Nathan's, "you and I need to have a conversation." An hour later, in a quiet, sterile coffee shop, Luan laid out the whole, sordid story for Nathan. He told him everything about Daniel, about the pregnancy, about the abandonment, about the last 6 years of my life. Nathan listened, his face growing paler and paler with each revelation. The story was so full of a casual, monstrous cruelty that it was almost impossible to believe. The woman he had worked with for 3 years, the woman his mother had wanted him to marry, was a monster. And Sarah, the strong, resilient, beautiful woman he was falling in love with, she was a saint, a martyr who had sacrificed her own life to save an innocent child. He drove back to the factory in a daze. He found Chloe in her office, packing her things into a box. "Nathan," she started, her voice a pleading whisper. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" he said, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "Explain how you abandoned your newborn son, how you let a 17-year-old girl throw away her future to raise him, how you let her carry the shame of your actions for 6 years, being called a tramp and a whore by everyone in her town, while you were climbing the corporate ladder and pretending to be some kind of victim. I didn't love him," she sobbed. "Daniel, it was a mistake." "I don't care who you loved," he roared, his voice echoing in the small office. "This isn't about love. It's about basic human decency. And you have none. Do you have any idea what you've done? Not just to that child, but to Sarah? She was ostracized, bullied. Her life was ruined because of you." Chloe just stood there, sobbing, unable to offer any defense. "And you," he continued, his voice dropping to a low, venomous whisper, "you had the gall to go to my mother and slander her. You painted her as some immoral, gold-digging tramp, when all along she was cleaning up your mess. The irony is so thick, I could choke on it." He walked to the door, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated disgust. "Pack your things. I want you out of this office, out of this company, and out of my life. I never want to see your face again." "Nathan, please," she begged, "give me another chance." "The only person you should be begging for another chance is Sarah," he said, his voice cold. "And the son you threw away." He walked out, slamming the door behind him, leaving her alone with the wreckage of her life. That evening, as promised, Chloe came to my house. She stood on the porch, a hesitant, fearful ghost, until I opened the door. She looked small, broken, all her sophisticated, corporate armor stripped away. She saw Leo playing on the living room floor with his Lego, and she froze. He looked up, a curious, innocent smile on his face. "Hello," he said, his voice bright and cheerful. "Are you a friend of my mommy's?" Chloe couldn't speak. She just stood there, tears streaming down her face. Leo, seeing her distress, got up, walked over to the tissue box, and pulled one out, holding it up to her. "Don't cry," he said, his small face a mask of serious concern. "My mommy says crying is for when you're really, really sad. Are you really, really sad?" His simple, innocent kindness was a knife to her heart. She sank to her knees, her body racked with sobs. I walked into the room, my own heart a tangled knot of conflicting emotions. The rage had faded, replaced by a deep, weary sadness. "I am so disappointed in you, Chloe," I said, my voice quiet, devoid of the fury from that afternoon. "But I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to scream. For his sake." I gestured to Leo, who was watching us with wide, confused eyes. "I don't want him to ever think badly of you. He deserves to believe his mother is a good person." I took a deep breath. "So, I'm going to give you a choice. You can either walk away, right now, and disappear from his life, forever, and I will continue to be his mother, and I will love him and raise him, and he will never know the difference. Or, you can decide to be his mother, and if you do, I will be there. We can do it together. But the choice is yours." She looked at me, her eyes wide with a disbelief that was slowly being replaced by a dawning, terrifying understanding of the grace I was offering her. "You don't have to decide now," I said, my voice softening. "Go home. Think about it. Really think about what you want. And then, when you're ready, you can come back." She just nodded, unable to speak. She stayed for a little while, watching Leo play, a strange, hesitant light in her eyes. And then she left, a silent, broken woman stepping back out into the night, faced with the biggest and most important decision of her life. As Chloe left, a strange sense of peace settled over me. The secret was out. The burden I had carried alone for 6 long years was finally shared. In the kitchen, Aunt Clara, who had been a silent, furious witness to the entire exchange, finally spoke. "How can you be so calm?" she asked, her voice trembling with a residual anger. "After everything she's done, after what she put you through, you're just going to forgive her, just like that?" "I'm not doing it for her, Aunt Clara," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I'm doing it for Leo. He deserves a chance to know his mother. And I think, in her own twisted way, she's been suffering too. You can't do something like that and not have it eat away at you. That girl doesn't have a conscience to be eaten," Aunt Clara sniffed. But the anger in her eyes had softened slightly, replaced by a grudging admiration. "You are too good, Sarah. Too forgiving." I just shook my head. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was just too tired to hold on to the anger anymore. Chloe drove back to the city in a daze. When she walked into her apartment, it was almost midnight. Her mother was waiting up for her, her face a mask of anxiety. "Chloe, where have you been? I've been calling and calling." "I was at their house, Mom," Chloe said, her voice hollow. "I saw him. I saw Leo." "And," her mother pressed, her eyes searching her daughter's face. "What happened? Did they find out?" "They know everything," Chloe said, sinking onto the sofa. "Everything." "So, what are we going to do?" her mother asked, her voice rising with panic. "Do we need to move again? We can pack, we can leave tonight." "No," Chloe said, her voice surprisingly firm. "We're not running anymore. I'm not running anymore." She looked at her mother, her eyes full of a strange, new clarity. "He's a good kid, Mom. He's so bright and happy. And Sarah, she's done an incredible job with him, all on her own." She took a deep, shuddering breath. "She gave me a choice. I can either walk away forever, or I can be his mother." "And what are you going to do?" her mother whispered, her heart in her throat. "I'm going to be his mother," Chloe said, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating in her mouth. "I know I don't deserve it. I know I made a terrible, unforgivable mistake, but I have to try. I have to try to make it right. For him." Her mother looked at her, at the genuine, heartfelt remorse in her daughter's eyes, and for the first time in 6 years, she saw a glimmer of the girl she used to know. "Okay," she said, her own eyes filling with tears. "Okay, honey, whatever you decide, I'm with you." Back at the Thorne family mansion, Marcus was facing his own emotional turmoil. He had heard about my resignation, about the dramatic confrontation at the factory gates. He knew, with a certainty that ached in his bones, that my disappearance was his mother's fault. But he also knew something else. He had seen the way Nathan looked at me, and the way I looked at Nathan. There was a spark there, a connection that he, with all his history and shared memories, couldn't compete with. He was sitting in the living room, staring into a glass of whiskey, when his brother came in. Have you found her? Marcus asked, not looking up. No, Nathan said, his voice heavy with a weary frustration. Her phone is off. She's not at her house. She's gone. Marcus took a deep breath. It was time to make his own sacrifice. You should go find her, Nathan, he said, his voice quiet. Nathan looked at him, surprised. What are you talking about? I thought we had a deal. A truce. The truce is over, Marcus said, finally looking up, his eyes full of a sad, noble resignation. Because the competition is over. She's not in love with me, man. She's in love with you. You don't know that, Nathan started, but Marcus cut him off. Yes, I do, he said, a small, sad smile on his face. When she looks at me, she sees a friend, a piece of her past. But when she looks at you, she sees a future. I'm not going to be the guy who stands in the way of that. I made that mistake once before. I'm not making it again. Go find her. Be with her. Make her happy. Marcus, Just go, Marcus said, his voice firm. And don't screw it up. Just as Nathan was about to leave, his face a mask of gratitude and a dawning, hopeful joy, Mrs. Mai came down the stairs. Where are you going? She asked, her voice sharp. Are you still chasing after that girl? Yes, Mom, I am, Nathan said, his voice full of a new, unshakable confidence. And Marcus is right here beside me. Mom, Marcus said, standing up to face her. You need to stop. This isn't about you or your reputation. This is about our happiness. And Sarah? Sarah is a good person, a wonderful person, and there are some things about her son, that you don't know. And he told her everything about Chloe, about Daniel, about the abandonment, about the sacrifice. He laid the whole, ugly, heartbreaking truth at her feet. Mrs. Mai listened, her face growing paler and paler with each word. The story was so contrary to the neat, simple narrative of a teenage tramp that Chloe had fed her, so full of a quiet, unassuming heroism on my part that it shattered her prejudices. She had been wrong, so terribly, horribly wrong. She looked at her sons, at the united front they presented, and she knew she had lost. But for the first time, the loss didn't feel like a defeat. It felt like a relief. The next day, a sleek black car pulled up in front of my house. It was Mrs. Mai. She stood at my gate, not with the arrogant, entitled air of her last visit, but with a hesitant, almost fearful humility. Aunt Clara saw her first and came marching out, a broom in her hand, ready for battle. You again. I told you to stay away from here, you old witch. Please, Mrs. Mai said, her voice a low, pleading whisper. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to apologize. Just then, I came out onto the porch. Aunt Clara, it's okay. Let me talk to her. I walked to the gate, my own heart a confused mix of apprehension and curiosity. Sarah, she said, her eyes, for the first time, meeting mine without a hint of judgment. I know everything. About Chloe, about your brother, about what you've done for that little boy. And I have never been more ashamed of myself in my entire life. The things I said to you, they were cruel and unfair and unforgivable. But I am asking you, from the bottom of my heart, to forgive me. The apology was so sincere, so heartfelt, it disarmed me completely. It's okay, I said, the words coming out before I even had a chance to think about them. No, it's not, she insisted. But I hope, in time, you can. And there's one more thing. She took a deep breath. Nathan, he's in the hospital. My heart stopped. What? What happened? He was in a car accident, she said, a single tear rolling down her cheek. He's been looking for you, everywhere. He was so distraught, so distracted. He drove right into a telephone pole. He's not seriously injured, thank God, but he won't eat. He won't talk. All he does is ask for you. Please, Sarah, will you come see him? The hospital room was quiet, sterile. Nathan was lying in bed, his face pale, a small cut on his forehead. He looked so vulnerable, so different from the powerful, confident CEO I was used to. He saw me, and his eyes lit up with a relief so profound it almost took my breath away. You came, he whispered. Of course I came, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I walked to his bedside and took his hand. Your mother told me what happened. Are you really okay? He squeezed my hand, a slow, mischievous grin spreading across his face. The accident was real, he said, his voice a low whisper. But the not eating, not talking part, that was all an act. A desperate, last-ditch effort to get you to come see me. I stared at him, a wave of indignant, relieved laughter bubbling up in my chest. You faked it? You are the most exasperating, manipulative, and completely infuriating man I have ever met. But did it work? He asked, his eyes twinkling. Yes, I admitted, my voice softening. It worked. Good, he said, his expression turning serious. Because I can't live without you, Sarah. I've tried for the past week, and it's been the worst week of my life. I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you for everything you've been through. I want to be a father to Leo. I want to be your husband. Please, Sarah, say you'll marry me. And in that quiet, sterile hospital room, with the scent of antiseptic in the air, and the man I had inexplicably, irrevocably fallen in love with looking at me with his whole heart in his eyes, I finally said yes. 6 months later, the sun was shining, the birds were singing, and the Thorne family was celebrating a double wedding. Nathan and I stood at the altar, my hand in his, my heart so full of a quiet, profound joy, it felt like it might burst. Leo, in a tiny, perfect tuxedo, was our ring bearer, a wide, proud smile on his face, and beside us stood Marcus and Emily. In the months that followed, as my life had beautifully, miraculously fallen into place, so had theirs. Marcus, having gracefully stepped aside for his brother, had found himself spending more and more time with Emily, the smart, funny, kind-hearted girl who had been right in front of him all along. Their friendship had blossomed into a quiet, beautiful love, a love built on a foundation of shared history and a deep, mutual respect. Chloe was there too. She stood in the back, her mother by her side, a small, sad, but genuine smile on her face. In the past 6 months, she had taken the first, tentative steps on a long, difficult road to redemption. She had quit her job, moved back to our small town, and started the slow, painful process of getting to know her son. She and I had formed a strange, complicated, but ultimately supportive co-parenting relationship. Leo now had 2 mothers, both of whom loved him fiercely. He was a lucky boy. As Nathan slid the ring onto my finger, our eyes met, and in his gaze, I saw my future. A future full of a love I never thought I deserved, a family I never thought I would have, and a happiness so profound, so complete, it was worth every single tear, every single sacrifice, every single moment of the long, dark, and lonely road that had finally led me home.